abstain from anything, but it does seem appropriate.
I wasn't here.
It does seem appropriate. All right. Next on the agenda is public comment on our agenda items for the day. That has been published. Like the county meetings, we're limiting individual comments to 3 minutes, and each person can only comment once. We're asking that you say which item you're talking about so we all understand where you're going before you start. Please give your name and your relationship to the island. Are you a resident? Are you a frequent visitor? Are you a business owner, employee, etc.? So if you could start by just informing us of that. We do have somebody who will give you a little warning when you're getting close to the end of your 3 minutes. I'm not going to be the one doing that because I want to be able to listen. So with that, is there anyone who would like to speak to one of the agenda items? Come on up to the podium, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Wood, live at 921 9th Street as a resident.
Could you speak up, please?
Sure. My name's Mark Wood. I'm a new permanent resident, and I anticipate I'm here to talk about the seasonal permit issue that's been brought up. As a new permanent resident, I anticipate being back and forth to our house in season and off season. I think it would be a mistake to pull back permit requirements off season. Permitted parking restrictions are not unique to Boca Grande. They exist up and down the Florida coast in almost every beach community. I'm frankly surprised that Boca Grande, with so much thoughtful planning that protects against overdevelopment on the island, has been so late to adopt a permit policy. From my research, it is common practice for coastal communities to maintain permit requirements year-round. I believe anything else would not only be confusing, but would be contrary to the best practices that other communities have developed. This past weekend, my wife and I were out of town for our daughter's graduation. While we had someone staying at our house with our dog, she was visiting a friend off island Sunday doing Mother's Day celebrations. Our camera spotted 2 girls walking our property in bathing suits when she was gone, and we had no car parked out front. We aren't sure if they got in our pool, as we had kept the cameras off the pool in respect to our dog sitter. We wanted to, be respectful of her privacy. After confirming with the dog sitter that she did not recognize the girls on the camera, we called the sheriff, but the girls were gone by that time. I think off-season leaves residents even more exposed to security concerns than in-season, another reason to maintain permitted parking requirements throughout all seasons. Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to speak? Okay.
Good afternoon. Robin Wilkins. I'm representing Open Shores of Southwest Florida. My topics are the seasonal churches and other specialty groups. What concerns many people in this, that the solutions today being discussed seem to acknowledge that the ordinance may not have fully accounted for how Boca functions day to day. The discussions today tell us flexibility is needed, perhaps not the nuclear approach that was voted on August 5th. We simply ask that the same level of consideration is given to families, seniors, longtime visitors, as is the churches, the church congregations, the fishing tour business guests, the guests from out of states, the guests that are not residents, and service providers. The Cape Hayes residents have been neighbors for decades, customary use for decades, and have access to beaches respectfully. Public access and neighborhood quality of life do not and should not be opposing goals. Balanced solutions, data-driven solutions, transparent solutions, and flexibility solutions. Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to comment? Yeah, if you're planning on commenting, it'd be helpful if at least one of you is lined up and ready to go, just to keep our meeting moving. Please.
Good afternoon, members of the panel and friends and neighbors. My name is Daphne Johnson, and I'm Lighthouse United Methodist pastor. For 110 years, our church has served this community as an agent of God's love, justice, and mercy. We provide ministries that address immediate needs such as food, housing, and clothing, while also working to confront deeper issues of suffering, injustice, and inequality. To fulfill that mission, we must be able to gather together as a church community, and that is why I stand before you today. Although Lighthouse is active year-round, our parking challenges are concentrated during the January through April season. We have worked diligently to comply with parking ordinance and to educate our congregation about where and how to park responsibly. Even so, under the current ordinance, our church is allocated only half the median parking space permitted the other two churches. We have been told that our members may park along 3rd and Gilchrist Streets near the church. However, the new signage suggests otherwise, requiring permits and threatening substantial fines with no indication that parking is permitted on Sunday mornings or Christmas Eve. At a minimum, this signage must be clarified so that worshipers and visitors are not discouraged or unfairly penalized. I also ask you to recognize that many members of our congregation have mobility challenges that may not be immediately visible. Not everyone uses a cane or a walker, but many still struggle to walk safely across sand, gravel, and uneven terrain. As a result, some of the alternative parking areas suggested to us are simply not accessible for many of our members. During these 14 weeks of peak season, we average more than 200 people in worship each Sunday. Early data already suggests that we're losing attendees because people fear they will not find parking or may receive a ticket. The current restrictions and confusing signage place an unnecessary burden on our congregation and create an unwelcoming experience for visitors. It is neither fair nor reasonable for someone attending worship to return to their car and find an expensive citation waiting for them. We are simply asking for reasonable accommodation. Specifically, we request permission for parking south of 3rd Street on the median during Sunday morning worship services and Christmas Eve, along with clear signage stating that nearby street parking is permitted during those times. Throughout this process, we have repeatedly sought compromise. We have worked to consolidate parking wherever possible and even agreed to remove requests for special event exceptions on median parking south of 3rd in an attempt to address neighbors' concerns. Yet despite these compromises, neighbors offer no workable alternative. Lighthouse United Methodist Church has long been a positive and active presence in this community, and we intend to continue to serve both island residents and off-island residents. But to continue growing and serving effectively, we must be able to welcome regular worshipers and visitors without unnecessary barriers. We respectfully ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Sims. I'm the Director of Operations for Gasparilla Adventures.
Didn't hear you, ma'am.
Speak into the microphone, please. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Lisa Sims. I'm the Director of Operations for Gasparilla Adventures, and I am talking about the seasonal relief from the parking ordinance. I urge the board to offer seasonal relief from the parking ordinance because this is about more than parking. It's about protecting the heart of our community. During the off-season, local businesses fight to stay afloat. The visitors who come to Boca Grande during these quieter months are the customers who help keep restaurants open, support small shops, and allow businesses to continue employing local workers year-round. Without that support, many businesses face difficult decisions that affect families, employees, and the character of the island itself. Boca Grande is special because of its small businesses, friendly atmosphere, and sense of community. When visitors feel welcome and can easily access our businesses, the entire community benefits. Limiting parking limited parking access during off-season sends the wrong message at a time when businesses need support the most. Seasonal relief is a reasonable and compassionate approach that balances the needs of residents while recognizing the realities faced by the people who work hard every day to keep this community vibrant and alive. Please support seasonal flexibility in the parking ordinance so Boca Grande can remain not only beautiful, but also economically sustainable and welcoming for everyone.
Thank you.
So there's my nerves. My name is Wendy Davis, and I manage at Fugates, and a lot of your faces are familiar. So I think this whole thing is disgusting. I do not live on the island. I do live off the island. I have been coming out here for over 20 years to bring my children to play. I have taught them to respect everything out here, as I have also grown up on a coastal community when I was younger. I am asking about the pulling the relief for off-season, just so that all of the businesses could survive for off-season. I'm like shaking right now because I'm so upset. I'm just gonna say it. So my biggest question is, if you have a majority of people who did not want this to go about, and you have a minority of people who wanted it to come about, how did it pass? I just can't grasp my head around how that happens. So then it makes me realize that if not you individual, but if a person, a small group of people want to restrict parking and semi-privatize an island, you do end up shoving out the businesses. The first to go are the small businesses, like ice cream shops, retail shops, restaurants, which would be a bummer. Because as a resident who would live out here full time, where do you want to go? Because, I mean, if I lived out here, I wouldn't want to go off island for everything. It's just too beautiful. But I cannot wrap my head around how that even happens or how it even works. But suspending would at least give businesses a chance to survive during the off times, because we're already at a low in those moments anyways. So that's all I have to say. Sorry, guys.
I'm Peter Powell. I'm a property owner on the island, both in Charlotte and Lee County, currently living at 271 Gilchrist. My question first is, I did send in my comments in writing. I was hoping that everyone got them so you can read them. I don't really need to read those comments then if you all have read them, because that's what I'm here to just make sure that they were read, and that I do want you all to know I respect the work you all are doing, and that I believe that it's important that you take time and consider anything that's being changed as a recommendation, not just make any kind of quick decisions. Let's give it time and consideration. This ordinance has only been in place in, of course, 3 or 4 months, and I think I've observed as a resident on Gilchrist that the circumstances that are being put forth perhaps are being a little bit exaggerated, and that I believe that once the attendees to both the Episcopal as well as the Methodist Church will find out that the parking is pretty available, both nearby and also within a few blocks. And I just would recommend that the committee consider to let this ordinance have time before making any recommendations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Just for the record, Peter, I believe you're speaking to the proposal to...
I'm sorry, I forgot to say, 4 period, D period, I think is what it is.
Got it. Okay.
The Lighthouse Methodist Church requirement.
Regarding the request for parking on the median. All right. Again, if people just start with that so that people who aren't as familiar know the topic. That'd be great. Anyone else?
Sorry. Hi, my name is Courtney McGovern. I'm a homeowner here on Boca Grande. I would like to address the Methodist Church interest in expanding parking. I would ask the committee to separate a motion from infrastructure on all issues at hand today and base your decision on documented facts. Certainly nobody is trying to limit access to worship or limit accessibility for those individuals of differing abilities. The Methodist Church does provide ample handicap spaces, more spaces than the other churches, thankfully, and they also have opportunities to utilize the street parking, which is adjacent to the handicap ramp. There would also be opportunity for them to block off those spaces like they do on Gilchrist to ensure that those people with differing abilities have access. It should be noted, though, that the Methodist Church abide by the conditions that they proactively sought. They proactively sought a variance to not have dedicated parking. This happened on 2 occasions. In 1999, during their first expansion, in which they were required 32 spaces, they asked for a variance for 0 spaces. And in 2003, they asked for a variance from the required 80 spaces to 0. In 2003, they had a hearing requesting that they have 0 spaces to accommodate the expansion of their church. And the expansion of the church was across 3 full lots, lot line to lot line, 22,000 square feet. The church goers provided testimony that they did not need parking. They provided testimony that there was plenty of parking to be accommodated off-site by 138 spaces in lots adjacent in commercial buildings. It was testified that this was not a recurrent nature, also it was key that the Nettie Richardson from Lee County Zoning confirmed why the county did not want to grant the church a variance and require them to have parking, because they said it would be, quote, injurious to the single-family residents in the immediate area. Having built out their entire private parcel, it's a violation of land use principles to now claim public residential green space to solve an issue they created. I urge the committee to encourage our historic churches to coordinate service times to maximize the staggered use of our existing parking lots rather than sacrificing more green space for private convenience. In regards to green space, I'd also like to address, can I address the difference for topic?
It's 3 minutes.
Just go ahead.
3 minutes total.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry about that. Thank you very much for your attention to that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Crespo. I represent myself. I also work for the Boca Grande Historical Society, and I work for the Methodist Church. And one of my key comments today is education. I feel like the ordinance is put in place, but it was never educated to anybody. And I'm going to use an example of my sister coming to visit 2 weekends ago, and there was an editorial in the Boca Beacon that she wrote. Her name was Pam Hendrickson, and she comes quite often. We grew up here. My grandmother was born here, and I live off island. At the time that we started coming here, we had a home on Tarpon Avenue, and so she comes to the beach regularly when she comes to visit me. One of the problems I had to explain to her is where she could park when she came to go to the beach on Saturday morning. And I gave her a good description of exactly where she needed to park. She tried to park there, but she has a knee replacement, and she could not get to the beach because there's no access on the 5th Street beach parking. There are cones put in place where you cannot get to the beach. She utilized the parking ordinance because I educated her. But a normal person coming to the island to visit Boca Grande is not I say this wholeheartedly, not educated. And a $280 parking ticket is beyond extreme. And one of the things that spoke loudly to me that she said, and also I feel, is we come from a big city and we travel a lot, and there's many places where you go to access parking in cities, and there's a parking, you go and pay in a machine and you say, I'm parking in XYZ. Here, you park somewhere, you don't know whether it's a legal parking space or not, and you get a ticket for $280. If you utilize a machine where you say, I'm parking in space ABC, and I'm going to be there for 3 hours as allotted by the ordinance, and if you go over, you get a $65 parking fine. This is something that could be changed or modified or looked at or addressed, but I think the way that the parking ordinance was just slapped into existence and given these exorbitant fines, not given education. How is anybody going to come to the island and know where to park legally if somebody doesn't educate them? And this parking board's job is to be here to educate. If you want it, figure out a way to educate the public. Not by a parking sign that makes no sense, stop and here, there, whatever, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It doesn't make sense. You need a map, a pamphlet, or something to utilize for people to educate themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. I'm Chris Boyden. I'm an Englewood native. I have worked out on Boca Grande I started out here in '93 with Ariel, and then I've been with the Palmon Park, the Lily store on 4th Street for many, many years. Begin my 33rd year out here. I totally respect all of the issues on the private streets. They should be addressed, and that should be monitored and taken care of. I have great respect for all the homeowners and their block driveways and all that you guys have been dealing with, Boo, and everything. But if there's any way downtown, we have noticed a loss of our customers. They don't feel welcome. They don't think they can park out here anymore. So many of our customers have my private cell phone number. They text me, they call me, they say, well, we want to come see you, but we can't park out there. There's a lot of things that people just don't quite understand. There's a lot of misinformation, I should say, out. Not so much now, it's quieted down, thank God, on Facebook, but there's so much misinformation out there that people didn't think they could come here anymore. You know, that they had to get a parking permit somewhere, and some places they do. But if there's any way that we could make it simpler in the off-season for us, if you check with everybody, I think all of our numbers are down. The streets are often empty, you know, in the afternoon when they should be crowded. You know, we're getting out of one season into another now. And we're lucky we're Lily Pulitzer. People will go home and say, can you send me this? Can you send me that? A lot of stores don't have what we have. But if there's any way that there could be a little leniency and give us a break, help us out a little. Come in, I'll give you a good deal on a Lily. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening, and thank you for doing this and giving us the opportunity to speak to you, not at you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tell Julie hi.
Hi, I'm Dennis Ross, a property owner on the island. And I really just wanted to echo Mr. Powell's comments that it's far too early for major changes in this ordinance. It's just been in effect really only for a few months. People are still adjusting to it, that's clear enough. And the impacts of it, I think, we really don't know. I mean, it's been such a short time. You hear dramatic stories about the effect on business, but there's been no real evidence that I know of that has shown what that impact is and whether that impact will survive. As to the seasonal lapse of the ordinance, it's strange, it doesn't make much sense to me that in a period when there'll be less demand, that we'll expand parking. Beyond that, one of the points of the ordinance, I think, was to preserve the natural beauty of the island, Gilchrist Avenue median in particular. To turn that into a 6-month parking lot is going to do damage that I think you really can't recover from. So I would certainly oppose it on that basis. And in terms of the Methodist Church and their request for additional space, I think you received a submission that took some aerial photographs of the parking situation on Sundays in April, including on Easter Sunday, which presumably is a high demand period for the church. I think those submissions, and I think you have them, show that there was plenty of parking within a very short distance of the church at that time, and no real need for additional space. Again, I think that's an issue when, let's see over time whether there's really a need there and whether recommended changes should be entertained or approved by the committee. Thanks for your attention.
I have to maybe get a little taller here so I can. Hope this isn't counting toward my 3 minutes.
What'd you say?
My name is Julie Sullivan, and I'm a Boca Grande resident. And hi, Chris. I'm here. I'm here to talk about seasonality. My primary objection to seasonality stems from the fact that the outside pressure on the island that gave rise to the ordinance doesn't go away in the summer when the schools are out and vacationers arrive. It may be more sporadic, but there are times of very intense use, particularly on the weekends. The traditional character and scale of the historic district and residential areas of Boca Grande are meant to be protected by this ordinance would be altered. We've seen what it looks like, and I won't repeat it here. What I want to emphasize is this. Some people live on the island year-round. The Gasparilla Inn is closed for part of the summer, but other island hotels and short-term rentals remain open for business. And island residents should have the same protection regardless of when they are here. Another point is that the real estate market doesn't take a break either. Sellers and potential buyers should be allowed to present and experience the same Boca Grande year-round. So I urge you to consider the wider ramifications of lifting restrictions, even temporarily. And this wasn't in my script, but I really want to address the needs of the merchants. The residents of Boca Grande care deeply about the merchants and their employees. I think, we all know that we help each other after the hurricanes. We provide preschool, scholarships, and all kinds of support for island residents and employees. Employees have the same parking rights, maybe even slightly better than residents. So we are really one community. And I'm worried that if you lift the restrictions, particularly in the downtown area, shoppers won't be able to park because there will be no turnover. So maybe there's an educational component to this so that people understand, we're open for business. The parking turns over. It's not going to be used all day by people who are spending the day at the beach. Thank you for your consideration and your time.
Hi, I'm Frank Newland, live across the street. I was going to speak to seasonality, and I was just curious, how many among you here live on First Street or 7th Street or East Railroad Avenue? If you want to put up your hands. How about you guys up here? 2. That is seasonality speaking to itself. The fact that none of the people from those neighborhoods, and who knows what other ones, are here, it doesn't mean that this season is dead. It just means that the use of private parking in certain areas is redundant or perhaps has other motives. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pierce Walmsley, second-generation homeowner down here in Boca Grande. Have been here since my folks bought in the 70s. I'm here to echo some of the other homeowners' suggestion that we press pause on any major changes, especially the seasonality request, due to the fact that we have only been a couple of months into this program. A couple of historical perspectives. Charlotte County in the late 70s had a population of roughly 50,000 people. They're on track right now to be around 235 at this moment and are growing at their fastest pace in the history of Charlotte County in the last 5 years. The idea of this ordinance was not just to deal with the today, it's also to deal with the tomorrow, and making any material changes right now before we can actually assess what the impact of this ordinance has been, and in advance of continued extreme growth off the island will likely mean that we're readdressing this in the future. And I just suggest that this committee press pause on the seasonality. So thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
Hi, I'm Dina Beaumont, full-time resident and shop owner of Sunsets in the Depot building. I'm here to support any easing of parking, especially seasonal or anything else that comes about in the future. I'll be supporting. Business is down dramatically all year, each month, dramatically. It's going to get worse from tomorrow on. And without the day trippers coming, I don't see how I can possibly make it in the years to come. So please consider any seasonality that is an option or any other easing of restrictions that's a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary O'Bannon. I didn't expect to speak today. I've been a resident of Boca Grande for 41 years, and we are still a resident. We rent now part-time instead. I raised my 4 boys here, and I have to say it pains me just a tad to see them have to have a visitor's tag on their vehicles when they all grew up here and they're all 5th-generation Floridian children that grew up on this island. But I'm talking to you today about the church remarks that I just heard. I think for people that are not involved in the church to stand up and say that there's plenty of room, there's plenty of, all they have to do is walk a little bit and they're fine. And also to bring up the fact that the church built lot line to lot line, I think is a little hypocritical of those that have spoken against it and also have built lot line to lot line. When Mr. Reed came at the first meeting, he spoke about the fact that Mrs. Cole, and I think you had to have a pretty hard heart if that didn't affect you, that Mrs. Cole, who's been here forever, and Cole Island is named after her family, got a 200 and something parking ticket for attending church. And then Pastor Daphne got up and told us exactly what was going on. To take the opinion of 2 people who don't have near the investment that the church has and has had for over 100 years, to me is a little short thinking on your part. I think these people know what their churches need. They know what their congregations need. And I just think for two people to come up and say, oh, they're fine, they don't need anything, I'm not sure that's right. 41 years ago, we moved here. 11 years ago, Will Farish hired me to protect the parking on the church median for all three churches. And for 8 of those years, we fought with the parking panel to maintain that church parking. Somehow I know this is an island-wide situation now, but ultimately it still comes down to Gilchrist. Gilchrist is the driving force behind this, and it always has been. And I just think that the way I was right in the middle of it, so the way it was handled, it wasn't handled legally, and it wasn't handled fairly. And I know that. And if there was a Bible here, I'd put my hand on it. Thank you.
I'd like to hand some things out. May I do that first?
She wants to hand,
I'm
you
just
can
gonna
hand it, but you
Half to one half to one side.
probably won't have a chance to look at it. We're going to listen to you
You
for 3
don't
minutes.
need to look at it.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Fletcher, and I live at 361 Gilchrist Avenue. And I'm here to speak about the additional parking requested by the Methodist Church. My husband and several of our neighbors have worked for nearly 4 decades to preserve the beauty of historic Gilchrist. Our desired outcome was ultimately to arrive at a no parking on Gilchrist solution and a complete refurbishing of the original Olmsted style of beautification to the parkway. Even though no Gilchrist resident has ever had any representation on any parking committee, 3 island-wide surveys and many meetings have saved half of Gilchrist. We are told the Gilchrist Parkway median is the only median in Lee County that allows parking. We congratulate the Methodist Church with your impressive growth, but with this growth comes many responsibilities. God's good works and other impressive deeds can be done without destroying beautiful Gilchrist. The Methodist Church created the problem by convincing a single hearing examiner to go against Lee County staff recommendation and eliminate the 80-plus parking spaces on their property by saying all of their parishioners walked, rode bicycles, or golf carts to church, and they needed no parking for cars. The Methodist Church members should honor their promises. In particular, the heartfelt ones from their former pastors, Brian Brightly and Matthew Williams, and walk from available spaces within close proximity. Although this poster is 10 years old, the parking availability indicated is correct and clearly shows available parking within a very short walking distance. But if they prefer not to walk, perhaps it is time to seriously consider valet parking, which is used by numerous churches, restaurants, and residents. I would like to conclude by thanking the many members of St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, the Baptist Church, and the Gasparilla Inn for making efforts to park in areas other than on the Gilchrist median. We thank the members of these organizations for attempting to protect and beautify our historic neighborhood. We thank them for actively embracing love your neighbor as yourself. Please send a strong message to Lee County and the church's representation and vote unanimously to deny additional and resume parking on the median. Bad behavior should not be rewarded. We are fortunate to live on this beautiful island and are grateful to those who came before us who preserved this island's charm. What will we leave behind?
I think that means your 3 minutes are up, Ann.
Are we going to have
Ann?
It's like the
this or this?
It's like the Oscars.
Thank you.
Music. That's a classic bad behavior, should not.
Hi, guys. Eric Ranowski, manager of Boca Blooms, speaking to seasonality. If I could just make a suggestion, instead of a wholesale seasonal relief approach, perhaps you could look at something that would protect the numbered beach streets and residents, also Gilcrest, and perhaps back to and including Park Avenue, where there's a mixed church and residence component. And then the core of the downtown business, which needs human beings. In August and September, I've been here 10 years, and you can take a nap in the middle of 4th Street and not get run over. So it would be nice if we could not put any barriers in that really deep, hard summer season to people. And I personally don't mind if people park in front of our business to go to the beach 4 blocks away. I mean, it'd be nice to see a human, in August. So just throwing that out there. And the physical manifestation of that seasonality component could be, as my former town, Rhode Island, had a seasonal component, during winter, would mean just putting a strip of metal with the date, the effective date, above the parking lot on top of the signs, wherever that was applied to. So just think about it, throwing it out there.
Anyone else? I can't see around the corners, so. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I ask that if everybody that spoke, make sure that they signed in so that their names can be adequately addressed in the minutes?
Was that heard?
Is that loud enough?
If everyone who spoke would please make sure you signed in so that it can be addressed, your name can be accurately put in the minutes. And the sign-in sheet is where?
In the front.
In the front, near the entrance where you came in.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. With that, we board members get to discuss these items. The way the agenda is set up this time is not with specific motions on any of these items. If you choose to make a motion, you're certainly permitted to do that. But what we've decided to do at the last meeting was have a discussion of each item amongst the committee here after hearing from the public. So the first item to discuss is the discussion of the format to educate the public on ordinance 2516, which is the Boca Grande Parking Ordinance. Comments from the committee?
I will make one if I may.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered yesterday, and it's probably been that way for a while, that Lee County...
Yeah, let's share the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Is that coming through?
Yep.
Okay. I discovered yesterday, but it may have been that way a while, that when you drive into Lee County, that illuminated sign that was there for so long that announced that there was a new parking ordinance is no longer there and illuminated. If you didn't see that and you haven't seen the maps and all that, the only knowledge you have are these little signs that say no parking and then parking without permit. They're good, but I do think that the public entering the island could be educated better if that illuminated sign at least remained there for a period of time.
Yeah, agreed. I think that education will solve a lot of the issues that we have, and if there can be something that can be handed out on the, when people come over the bridge or something that, as things change, even with a QR code, I'm glad this is the number one thing on our agenda, for a reason, I think.
Just as a comment, sorry. Does this work?
Yes.
Okay. Just a brief comment regarding the suggestion of more education. That's obviously a very good suggestion, and the flashing sign, I'm sure, could be reinstituted. A comment regarding the bridge. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not, its mission is to provide safe transportation and facilities for entrance and leaving Gasparilla Island. So the bridge, I'm on the board, that just wouldn't fly. So I wanted to address it early because there are other comments that have been made, I think, by other presenters about what the bridge could or couldn't do. And I think it's an easy answer, but it's not going to work.
I think that there are things to do, and one suggestion I might make is on the other side of the bridge. It doesn't have to be at the bridge, but if there was some signage before you get onto the island and there were a QR code that people could, download to their phones that would explain what the restrictions are and where they can park, might be a step towards better education.
Just curious, how would a QR code work on a sign while people are driving?
Good question.
I'm no tech expert. You guys figure it out. I don't know.
It won't.
But,
It won't. It would be a safety issue, let's just put it that way.
So I know none of us really want to see more signs, but I do think that signage is important. Some thoughts I have on signs. I know that although additional signs are controversial, perhaps on the signs where it says permit parking only or no parking only or whatever, perhaps we could get a little sticker or something even added to those signs with maybe the fines, right? Because if I see a sign and I see something that tells me that it's going to cost me $210, I'm certainly going to think longer about that. So that's just, right, that's one suggestion that it's not my idea, but somebody had suggested that. I thought it was a good idea. Also, I have taken several field trips myself around the island. If you haven't done that, looking at all the signs, please do. It can be, you can stand on one corner and we really have our work cut out for us with the education, because you can stand on one corner and you may see 20 signs, right? So it really is a little complicated. We, the Boca Beacon, right? So when we were putting out the street map and our visitor's guide at the end of, we went to press for the visitor's guide before we had all of the rules, because we went like in August, I think. But on our parking map, which is handed out at the bridge when somebody asks for it, we kind of did some consolidation and just some generalizations about the state park lots, about the fees, about Fifth Street. I think we summarize the fishing stuff, the kayak area. We talk about downtown before 5 o'clock is 3 hour. So the details are really complicated. So in my opinion, general may be better, right? Because it is, you can look at the map and I even get confused. I've had to ask the DOT, like, I'm not really sure what this map says, right? That's just some thoughts.
I have one other thing, and maybe the county folks can help us out. What sort of education did Captiva and Sanibel do when they instituted their parking restrictions? Okay.
I believe if you Google it, you'll find that they do have, Sanibel does have something explaining their ordinance on a website and where one can park and what the rules are. But we could review it.
Well, what happened to the idea of just a one-page little brochure, one card? We could leave it at the merchants and could have a map, just simple map, and it can show where you can park and where you can't. I also have observed that there's pretty good compliance with the ordinance. I don't know, is it really that complicated?
I think that perhaps it's that complicated because I think people, what I heard some of the people say was that people just aren't coming because they're really confused, or if they're here, they're really not sure where they can park. It is somewhat confusing.
Well, I just, we've seen, what is it? I think we've seen in the paper, there was an announcement about $40,000 worth of fines. So there are a fair amount of people that have been smacked already. I think we read some time ago that 461 signs were being affixed. So I don't think it's unusual to see additional metal signs attached to those those signposts indicating more specificity. I mean, this is not rocket scientist stuff. This is just educating the public. The idea of having a brochure or notice in a store, it's a terrific idea, but the difference is that people may not park to get into the store. And I think we have to address it up front and be proactive.
Any other comments? Yeah.
I think there's many sources that can bring information forward, whether it's a newspaper. I think the Chamber of Commerce needs to be leaned on for many reasons to support the local businesses, and something simple that can be distributed, that both the hotels, different vendors, bike rental, cart rentals, that is a piece that's well distributed. But I think between the newspaper and the chamber, I think. But do we have an official thing, or do we just say, here's the ordinance, when people decide to take matters into their own hands to publish their own material?
Yeah. I'll comment for a minute. First of all, I appreciate everyone's comments. Secondly, I think in most jurisdictions, neither residents nor visitors understand every detail of the ordinance that affects them. What needs to be clear is, what can I do if I'm a visitor? What can I do if I'm an employee? And the communication on that, I think, needs to be simple. We need to address the fact that some people deal in words well and some people deal with pictures well, with maps. And the signage, perhaps should be reviewed, and are there things that could be improved? The idea of putting the actual amount of the fine on the sign might help compliance quite a bit. So what I would like to do is propose that one member of this committee, so we stay consistent with sunshine, but raise their hand and volunteer to try and put together something to come back to us that would include an approach to these, a handout perhaps. I think a handout makes a lot of sense. A simplified one. We don't need to give every exception. Employees know what they can do. Maybe we could have a different one for employees, but a general one for visitors. If somebody could volunteer to do that? I would. Mark? Okay. And I'd suggest, if you would, that you work with people in the community, talk to other, your real estate, you have rentals, but talk to other people who do that, talk to people who are running different businesses in town, talk to residents and the hotels. And I would suggest that maybe Nathan can give you guidance on who to work with at the county to help pull things together in a way that will take the burden of production off your back. But if you could come back, don't do it all, but come back with a recommendation for this group and an approach, I think that would be very helpful. I guess I'll put that in the form of a motion. I move that Mark Spurgeon do that for us and come back. Is there a second? Second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We didn't discuss the motion. My bad. Does anyone want to discuss it? Okay. Then.
I have a comment to support.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Sorry. I'm a retailer here on the island and a resident, and I honestly think that if we could all wrap our arms around the communication as a team, it would be wonderful, because there's confusion amongst merchants, there's confusion amongst residents, And we do have a wonderful communication through the Boca Beacon to people off the island as well as on the island. So after Mark gets this kind of organized, if we could streamline some communication so it was a proactive and positive thing, it would behoove all of us. The negativity, pass forward that. It is an ordinance. It has been accepted. Let's try and make it work the best for all.
Okay. Any other comments, Nikki? Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I have a question. Why can we not hand something out at the bridge?
There's a significant amount of not only individual car traffic going through, contractors and whatever, but the real issue is timing. I don't know if you've ever been stopped at the bridge and you want to get through and you're 10 cars back because the bridge is open for, boat
Answering
traffic,
questions.
whatever. So I just think it would interfere, and it's I've heard it before, but I suggest we follow more easy paths to get there. Thank you.
Could we have a QR code at the bridge? Because
I
you
did-
are stopped there, you could scan something while you're stopped to educate yourself there prior to entering the island.
So-
Or you could turn around if you don't want to, deal with it.
I missed
Yeah.
your first part of it. Where would you suggest they
The
scan
QR
something?
code right when you're driving in to the island. If the bridge would allow, I don't know if anybody's on that board. Yeah, you're stopping anyways, so it wouldn't be a safety issue at that point.
So this is,
Maybe a website that you can commit to memory, so you don't have to.
I don't feel like that's how people operate.
Let me suggest that Mark, if you want to pursue this, you can talk with people associated with the bridge and find out what is and isn't possible, but those are ideas that can be considered.
I have another comment.
Yes.
The chamber has discussed maybe working with Island TV and creating some type of media that we could post on Facebook and all these places, that everybody's getting their information from to educate the public on, what you can do, what you can't do, where you can park, and encourage everybody to support the island, and especially in the off season, because that is a major concern for our business district.
And I'm going to ask Michael publicly if other committee members have ideas between now and the next meeting or whenever Mark comes back to us that they want to share. Can they do that? What's the legal route for them to share ideas?
If you want to share any information with another committee member, send it to Nathan. Nathan will make sure you're not providing any substantive comments, and then provide it to all the committee members. I think there's an email set up for that.
Okay.
That's the way to do it.
All right, so use the Boca Grande Parking Committee at legov.com. Okay, good, thank you. All right, any other comments before we move on? Yes.
Question, and that is just about dissemination of information. We received a lot of letters and comments that, came in and that were distributed. Does the public get to see that as well, those letters commenting
They're
on?
discoverable with FOIA requests, but I think in general, individuals have the right to communicate with the committee with the expectation that unless there's a FOIA request, we're the ones who see it.
I'll make a suggestion. I think,
Yes.
But going back to when we had the first meeting about public access, I think if someone takes an effort and time to write a letter to the committee, I think that should be shared with the public. And a FOIA request, we're not, again, we're getting a little above here. The main issue with sunshine laws, et cetera,
That's not a sunshine issue.
I understand that, but it's notice.
Right.
And making sure that people have access to free and transparent information. So I really think if, like Peter Powell, he said, he didn't know if the committee had even received his letter. So I think it can be done.
Yeah, it's not a question of whether it can be, whether it's wise. So let's hold this off and have it as a discussion topic. What I will say is, I'm not going to say anything. If I'm asking you to hold off, I'm going to hold off. We can come back to that at the end of the meeting and decide when and how we want to discuss that. Okay?
As an aside, I think I mentioned to you I have a back ablation that I'm going to be leaving in about half an hour. So I have shared my thoughts. If any other thoughts about seasonality, I'd love to get my 2 minutes in.
That's what I'd like to do.
Before I have to go to that
seasonality.
procedure.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's move on to seasonality, please. Comments? Ron?
This was not something I had focused on. I heard it the first meeting. I've heard it discussed today. I think there's a concern, and I, for one, agree that Gilchrist is one of the most attractive roads and residential areas in all of Boca Grande. And I have friends, and I go to church there. And when I have family and friends visiting the island, it's certainly on the to-do list to take them to Gilchrist. One of the areas that has been discussed with that the seasonality addresses, and maybe we bifurcate, maybe we address not focusing on the numbered streets at all, but we focus on being able to give additional assistance to the merchants during this off-season period. So I would strongly suggest that seasonality not encompass at this time, but seasonality be addressed to the merchants, and we need the merchants. And certainly the inn needs the merchants. They have to entertain their fine clients when the inn is open. And the inn, as we all know, is the economic engine of this island. So anything that basically can help guests have a favorable experience when they're in Boca Grande, and it helps the merchants, I say that's like motherhood and apple pie.
Absolutely.
Ron, you said exactly what I was thinking, and I think because what my suggestion was is to leave, I understand the people that live along Gilchrist, and you don't want people, so once you have all these signage, and if we can somehow work out something with the Methodist Church, that would be nice, but if we could separate the Gilchrist from the downtown district, and if it were seasonality, then, then have the relief for the downtown district, but still possibly keep, that might be a spirit of compromise, that might go over better with everybody, and I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, I think I'll come back to my own opinion on that later, but just as a point of information, it might be easiest to talk about the non-residential areas versus the residential areas. It's not a particular numbered street or Gilchrist. It's a question of, people's homes versus the non-residential are basically the commercial areas. So, maybe the easiest way to think about seasonality for some is, do you want it residential and non-residential or only non-residential?
We'll use the classification of non-residential, and we won't narrow it to numbered streets or Gilchrist. But I think it's an area of focus that we've heard from our merchants, and we should pay attention.
So does anyone know if, the downtown parking, there are no meters, like most any other place. How do we know how long a car has been parked there? And have any tickets been issued for overtime parking? Do we know?
I believe they have. I believe there's a lot of violators who don't get ticketed. I can tell you that the county is evaluating technology. I'm actually quite familiar with this from my prior business, that will make it very easy to tell who's been there longer than 3 hours in a non-intrusive way.
Yeah, if I can
Yes.
say something. We're talking about seasonality, residential and commercial. Well, there isn't that much of Boca Grande that's not residential. If you just say the downtown area, well, there's other businesses around that aren't, and mine is one of them.
Right.
I think that, you got to do something for the merchants on this island who are taking a hit. To be honest with you, we didn't get hit that bad this year, but I can see that what's coming in the summertime. And, we've always taken pride in the fact that we don't close. We're open every day except for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't know if that's going to be the case in the future because we'll be open all year this year. But if what happens is what I think is going to happen, then we're going to have to start considering closing for a month or two in the summertime. And we're basically the last one that's open all year long. And some of the other merchants on the island, you know, you can say what you want, let's wait, and don't do anything rash, because let's wait and see how it works out. Well, how it's going to work out is you're going to lose businesses. Now, you may or may not care about that. I care about it. I care about the other businesses. I think we'll survive. We have our own parking. We valet park cars. But by waiting, you can sit and wait and watch the businesses disappear. And, you know, new businesses will come in. Maybe that's what some people want, is have new businesses come in that are more appropriate for the new stature of the island. Me, I like the people that are here. I like the businesses that are here. You know, I think the seasonality thing is important. And it's also going to ease some of the tension with our neighbors from off island who, you know, once again, there's some people that are saying things that aren't accurate, and I certainly don't condone that. But you have to give the merchants a chance to do some business. You can't operate 4 or 5 months a year. You can't keep your help. There's just nothing you can do. And the reason we stay open is because we want our employees to be employed all year long. And I'm sure that'd be a problem for everybody else. But on that issue, I'm done.
All right. I'd like to share my point of view on this. Firstly, I'll tell you that when I initially thought this through, I thought the obvious solution was to grant seasonality during the off-season, and by that I define it as when the inn is closed, because overcrowding the beach in front of the inn is not something that's good for commerce on this island, in my view. What we see is people coming into private areas, whether they're residences or the inn itself. I did some counting. If we took that approach, though, we would essentially be making available 400 parking spots downtown. Okay? When this ordinance was originally created, there were a couple concepts that were communicated. That most of them are laid out from a legal point of view in the preamble, with the whereas clauses and the purpose about protecting the character and scale of the island, the residential neighborhoods, maintaining access to businesses. Those were indeed the goals of the over 1,200 people who signed a letter in support of this ordinance, I believe. One of the ideas behind its construction was to be comprehensive so that we wouldn't push problems from one part of the island to another. Those of us who live on those numbered streets were having real problems, and we didn't think it would be fair to push them to a different neighborhood. So we were comprehensive. By relaxing it for residential neighborhoods and not for the non-residential area, you'll essentially be taking all that demand that has been problematic on the numbered streets and pushing it to the downtown area, and it will be people migrating back and forth, as we see on weekends now, to the beach, overcrowding the area. You'll be putting more people. I mean, just take a step back from a park design point of view. Why would you pick the narrowest stretch of beach in the island to put 400 cars when you have about 1.5 miles of beautiful public beaches?
What
So,
narrows? You're talking about?
I'm talking about the area between First and Fifth, which is where all these
Well,
people will.
you know,
Downtown district, it's the merchant district. They want to be close to the businesses so they can go support the businesses. That's why they want to be on those.
Is that why it was empty last summer when they were allowed to do it?
Oh,
And it was,
empty in the summer.
and it was crowded on the numbered streets? I mean, I'm not sure the facts support that.
well,
So-
I don't know if you've been here all year. I'm here all year, every day. I drive the length of I look down all the streets, and from now on, there's nobody here. You know, you'll get some people on Memorial Day weekend, you'll get some people on all the holiday weekends. But from now till October, there's not a lot of people here. I see it I'm on a public beach.
Yeah, but
I
Bart-
see what they do. I look down these streets every day. The only thing you see is service vehicles.
Bart, I'll just say we've heard from a number of residents, and I have been here in the summer, of what happens on weekends on the numbered
Well,
streets.
I don't see it. I haven't seen
Okay,
it.
I don't
I
wanna
haven't seen
get
it
into a
for
back and
20
forth.
years.
Okay.
So you can all say what you want, and you get as many letters as you want, but it doesn't happen. There's nobody around here in the summertime.
Then why do we need more parking? Because that way.
Because maybe some of the people that
go
live
one at a time.
around the area will come here in the summertime and give us a little business.
Okay. Who would like to speak? Rich?
Is this working?
Yes.
You know, when we put on the agenda seasonality, I think people were thinking about residential parking, and we received all comments related to residential parking. And by the way, they were all negative to relaxing any kind of permit required for residential streets. And most of the angst has related to the 1st through 19th Street, which I think, if you total it up, are 14 streets. They're all dirt roads, less than a couple hundred feet, with homes on them. And I think a big purpose and motivation for this ordinance was to ensure the quiet enjoyment of those residents to their properties. They were never intended to be parking lots. I personally would object to any kind of relaxation of residential permit parking.
Well, how do you define residential?
I'm sorry, will you let me speak?
Yeah, one at a time. One at a time.
Okay.
I thought you were done.
I'm not done.
Okay, go on.
You know, and I think we haven't given the community a chance to respond to a amended seasonality, okay? There was some, you know, there's a suggestion maybe that we relax permit parking in the downtown area. I would be hesitant to vote on anything like that until we've given the community and merchants an opportunity to comment on that. We maybe have heard from one or two, but you know, I think we should give people a cycle, at least one cycle between meetings to comment. I'm done now.
I find the discussion very difficult because I have no idea what we're talking about other than seasonality, which is a very generalized topic.
Right.
There is no particular focus on residential, non-residential, and if we kept it to just non-residential, are we talking about are we talking about everything that's non-residential? Are we talking about Fifth Street? Are we talking just right in front of the businesses? I think it's very confusing, and I think it's very difficult to address the issue until we know what is it we're talking about. I wouldn't know how to vote on this if you ask me right now.
Yeah, we're not, to be clear,
Can I
Kimberly,
give you a
it's just a point of, just as a point of information, the agenda is set up, and that's what I was clarifying with Michael when you walked by outside. The agenda is set up for a general discussion on the topic. Out of that, after hearing each other, someone may want to make a motion for a specific item, and then if it is seconded, we will discuss that specific item. Absent that, and someone, as we talk about what we will discuss at the next meeting, someone might want to make a more a motion for a more specific topic at that. I think it would be helpful if someone presented something that was.
Well, I'll be happy to give you a general idea. Take First Street to 19th Street. Keep the regulations in effect all year long. And the rest of it, I mean, it's a matter of discussion. You can say, well, this street needs protection, this street needs protection, and then take off in the rest of the area, in the rest of the town. Seasonally.
I think he's talking about
The beach access roads. Okay, you're talking about the beach access.
Were you done, Kimberly?
Beach access roads,
Okay,
first,
sorry.
isn't that where they are?
Yeah,
First
hang
and
on,
19th?
please. Kimberly hasn't finished, and then we'll.
I'm
Okay.
also curious as to whether we have any information with regard to the usage of these areas, any factual numbers that we can look at to see whether or not they have less people coming in, they have more people coming in, just some type of data, because I feel like I'm guessing
Yeah.
as to whether or not we need to lessen the restrictions in some area. I don't
You
know.
want to come and look at my books?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think.
Okay. I thought that with all of the public comment, we did hear from several merchants, and they did, I mean, they're pleading with us to do something at least downtown based on their individual numbers. Perhaps we might all hope to give the business district the very best shot that we can. And if I think there's a lot of conversation going on about residential or whatever, but I did even specifically hear a couple of requests from the merchants and the shopkeepers about the downtown area specifically. So if we have to kind of boil it down, there, perhaps that's what we're talking about, is relaxing that 3 hour in the summertime, or I don't know, May through Thanksgiving, or I don't know, whatever we come up with. And I also heard you, Hugh, with your 400 spots downtown, if we open it up, perhaps some of the summer, as I think it was even Eric said, they might really be happy just to have people there, because it is quiet in the off season, so to speak.
Is there anybody who hasn't spoken to this topic yet that has something they want to say? Louis, you haven't spoken.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd just like to step back a little bit. We heard some comments from people, residents, talking about being against relaxing seasonality. And I asked the question, does everybody get to see the comments and the letters that come in? Because we received several that were all very much against relaxing seasonality, mostly for quality of life and enjoyment in residential areas. But stepping back, there were three real reasons that this parking ordinance came into being, and some of the strongest arguments were, I think, threefold. One was the quality of life and the right to quiet enjoyment of your neighborhood. Second was public safety, which is really becoming an issue with some of these beaches and streets being overcrowded. And the third thing was the environmental sensitivity and sustainability of Boca Grande. Boca Grande is 2.6 square miles. 2.6 square miles. There are hundreds of people that are coming in. If we relax this ordinance in the summer, that's peak turtle hatch season. This ordinance has been in effect only being enforced for 3 months now. 3 months. We've not even had half of a season to see how this goes. So I would be against, I would like to see, one, us go a full cycle and see how things work. But two, the only comment, I think it was from Julie when she made her comments, the only person that's made any comment about environmental sensibility, which is one of the main impetuses for this ordinance, because we are a 2.6 square mile sensitive area.
And it just simply, it will not be sustainable with the overcrowding.
Hang on. Mark, you were next?
I hadn't spoken, but...
Oh, I was asking that you wanted to speak. Did you want to speak?
Well, I think everyone should have the opportunity to speak. I'm kind of guy, let's pass the mic all the way around the room and let everyone make their comment. But I live here, I see a lot of different things. You see cycles that businesses have been affected since Ian. We've been in a 4-year cycle where, we're coming back, and then we had the interruption of 2 more hurricanes. I see that in my business. I get a large cross-section of that. So I think we're still on a comeback. A lot of people didn't come this year because they weren't sure that their property was even going to be available. And those people are coming back next year, so I see down the road. But I also see or have heard comments that there are tents too deep in the village area with no parking. So you can look down the street and not see a car, but if you look over the seawall, you'll see 2 tents deep, the whole strip. So people are coming to the island, and to give them more space to park, I don't know, eventually, you've saturated all your parking, but I don't know that we have a full sense from the businesses, that, are people coming to the beach actually their customers. I don't know. I'd like to have more input on that. I don't have a read on that.
Ron, you haven't spoken to this?
I think I started this by saying numbered streets, and then we declared it residential or non-residential. I guess we've heard the merchants. I take their comments at face value. We can say, we've heard you, but we're going to ignore you. And then if we're right and they're wrong and they go out of business, I think the whole island has suffered. So I come back. I do think it's something that, and that's why I bifurcated it, because I knew the hot issue vis-a-vis the residential area. Okay, I mean, I've referred to you as the protagonist, and you smile when I say that and accept it. So I'm saying I'm not looking to create a problem. I'm trying to find a resolution to an issue that would affect all of us who live on Gasparilla Island. And I think we should listen to the merchants, and we try it for a season. If all of a sudden, oh my God, we've gone to hell in a handbasket, we can address it. But I think it's something we should listen to the merchants and address it quickly.
Yes.
Thank you. To Ronald's point, I agree with that. Like, since there hasn't been great education up to this point, this does give us the opportunity to introduce seasonality and educate everybody on that, to welcome people to the island, and not talking about like the beach access streets that, protecting the residential neighborhoods, because that was part of the point of the ordinance. But if we're all looking out for each other in our community, then merchants reporting drops in sales, that all of us can give you that information if anybody wants to collect it or do a proper economic impact study, if that's something the county will do, and if that's some kind of motion I can make to have a true economic impact study for our island. I don't see why that is out of the realm of possibility to,
Just to clarify, are you asking?
I'm not sure, I'm new to this.
Seasonality?
The
topic is seasonality. Do you want to see an economic impact study before we make a decision on seasonality?
I don't think.
No, not necessarily. I'm just kind of bringing it up.
You don't want that.
Okay, well, is it relevant to? Okay. I know you.
Since there's a Boca Grande Chamber of Commerce, maybe they can just send out a survey to all the business owners, and whether you're a member or not, maybe, and find out what your percentage was down, because that would indicate seasonality. Okay, but it's already been, if we've already been down by, I've heard anywhere between 20 and 30% down, then, so I have ventured to guess it would even be more down on the off season. So we could just kind of keep a pulse on it.
Keep the topic on seasonality, please.
Sales tax receipts, right? So in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, that's data.
Let's stay on seasonality, please.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
What are the volumes of
Yeah.
The volumes have held up well, both on, the volumes have held up well, and we can certainly, I can't speak louder, I'm sorry. The volumes on the bridge have held up well, and there's a difference between revenue on the bridge and number of vehicles that pass, and that information is readily available.
He said the volumes have held up well. I believe they've increased.
Yeah, right.
Can we define what we're talking about with seasonality?
Yeah, there was,
Would it be no time limit, or is it 4 hours instead of 3, or, I think we have to let the education, the one-pager, that will help too.
well, Bart tried to make a motion, and Bart, I'll ask you whether you can...
I'm just talking more of framework of what it was.
Okay.
You can sit down and figure what are the residential areas that need protection and what are they not. A lot of the island is empty in the summertime. And, for the next 4 months or 5 months, whatever it is.
I shouldn't
I think
be
it's something that you could spend some time and figure it out.
Right.
And you can talk to the people. You can see where is the traffic. I mean, really, I don't see a lot of traffic on any of those beach streets, but that's fine. Keep the parking restrictions on those access roads. But the whole island, I think, is kind of crazy, and the downtown area especially. And I have no dog in that fight because it doesn't affect me whatsoever. But I think the downtown area needs some relief.
Okay, I think we're at risk of repeating ourselves. Is there anybody who hasn't spoken who has something that they want to say to have input on the topic? Let me suggest then that if somebody wants to make a motion, a specific motion, they do so now. Otherwise, in absence of that, my bet is we'll decide to have a more refined version of this on our next discussion point for our next agenda. But yes.
Yes, I will make a motion, thinking out loud and extemporaneously, primarily because I've listened to the merchants. I do not want to address the residential area. We're addressing the area that may be called the historic district, but I do think it's something that needs to be addressed soon. We can kick this can down the road even more. We can study it. We can see when this committee meets or doesn't meet and has a quorum or doesn't have a quorum. So you'll get the study 6 months from now, and then all of a sudden the merchants may not be around to be able to be assisted. So I would propose that there be a seasonality, and for the discussion point, we'll come up with, we'll use when the inn closes, right? We could do the week after Easter or whatever, but let's use the time frame when the inn closes. That would be a time when the downtown area, not the residential area, would be able to have open parking to the extent that a resident would have in the other part of the year.
Let me help try to create that motion that makes we need to provide some measure here. You're talking about from April.
No, point of information, the inn is closed July 6th through September 30. Yes, but he was saying.
There are different measures that I could have suggested. I think one that is pretty much in stone is what the inn does. And the inn is the economic engine of this island, so that would be a measure to use.
Okay, I don't know when they close.
July.
So July through when?
October.
What if they change next year? Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, they may change it.
I'm just trying to help formulate the motion so that they can either have a second discussion or whatever. So the motion I'm hearing would be a motion to remove parking restrictions in the non-residential areas from. I need dates.
July 4th to October 15th.
July through October.
No, not through October.
Till the beginning of October.
July through
October 5th.
It's the second week of October.
Okay, I understand, but what y'all, the next step, if this were to be approved and got approved by the board, would be putting up signage, and you're not going to put all the dates on there. You're just going to put 2 months.
Let's get past this first.
Right. So that's the motion that's on the floor. Can you repeat the motion?
Okay, let me take a stab. The motion is to suspend the hourly parking restrictions in non-residential areas from July 15th until October 1st.
No.
That's, yes.
I think if you were to make that kind of a motion, why wouldn't you do it affirmatively and say in the business district? Because what is non-residential?
Because the way the ordinance is written, we have defined terms, and non-residential is essentially the business district. But we have defined what the business district is. So it's because it fits the language of the ordinance. So the July 15th I'm choosing because if we say July 6th, it depends when the 4th of July is, and we'll pick its closing date. If the 4th of July is on a Friday, they're not going to close it on Saturday, okay?
I would just suggest for signage purposes, if they get that far, that you just say July through just the month. That way it makes it easier for what sign. You don't want a long sign.
Okay. All right. So do you want that to be your motion,
Yes,
Ron?
I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, where's the geographical designation?
Okay, if you look at your ordinance and look at the map,
It's the light blue / gray blue on the map.
yeah,
The whole of it?
yes.
So you're talking about even the areas in front of the churches?
No, in front of the churches is,
Non-residential?
no. Your permit only in front of the church.
It's just that blue area.
Yeah. So a lot of work went in, and churches, businesses were consulted on preferences, but in general, the rule was if it's in front of a home, or a dwelling place, it's residential, and if it's in front of something that's primarily retail or restaurant, it's commercial. It's non-residential. Pardon me?
Well,
Yes.
We have a motion. We need a second.
Yes, we need a second to have discussions.
So we're July to October, right? Is that where we are?
And it's through, or is it
We
to?
need
It's-
a second.
I'll
It would be
second.
relax it July through September, I think you're saying? Or
Through
October?
September or till October 1st, I mean, whatever the
So
thing,
say,
however
call
that
it
says.
September if you want to put on
Right.
months.
However, it's clearer on the signs, I think.
I think 2 months with a dash in between.
So July dash September.
And whether you put up the negative or the positive, you might say permit only. Let's not
two
get
or
into the
whatever.
sign. Just, is there a second before going any further?
Yes, I will second.
Okay, there's a second. Can we have discussion of the motion?
I would like to say something. Okay.
Please.
And I know that in June, it substantially goes down right away just because it's slower and the residents aren't here any longer. And so I would like for you to just consider June through October 1st as the time frame, just to help the merchants. But, and it would just be then the signage. It's very simple, June through October 1st, or through September 30th, however you want to put it.
You want to propose
So
that?
you're proposing that as an amendment?
As an amendment, but then Ronald would have to accept it. Okay.
I'll second
I
it.
accept your amendment. Thank you.
Okay, the way that Lee County does this, just for everyone's education, is a little different than, there's various ways to do it. But if someone wants to make an amendment and the original motion maker accepts the amendment, that becomes the motion.
Okay.
If they don't accept it, the person wishing an amendment could still decide to make a motion, but we have the discussion on the original. You've accepted.
I have accepted.
Cheryl, do you agree with that as the second?
Yes, so June through September.
Through September 30th. So
Okay.
if you want to call it June 1st, October 1st, however you want to do it, but yeah.
I will second that.
Okay.
All right, discussion.
So I would recommend that we table a vote until the next meeting to give all of our merchants an opportunity to comment on this. We've heard from a few, but I think this is a brand-new concept, and I think we should give people an opportunity to comment, including the Chamber of Commerce.
So there's a motion to table until our next meeting. Is there a second on that motion? I'll second that. Okay. Discussion.
Sorry, thank you. When is the next meeting? In June?
We
June
have a
17th.
meeting in June. As of now, we have a quorum for the meeting, but we do not have 12 members who can attend in person.
We're going to be...
The whole thing will be lost, just like Ron said, if we don't
Exactly.
seize the opportunity. I think we need to put something out there that we're trying to work with merchants. I am a merchant. I totally understand. It doesn't really affect me because we actually close for the summer. I knew that going into this business, but I'm not in the restaurant business, and I totally understand where people are coming from. I think we need to make a compensation and give it a go. What do we have to lose? 3 months. It's not going to kill our island to do that for the summer.
Let's hold applause and booze.
Can we have the motion, have a decision on the motion still? Because what we're going to cause problems when Ron leaves, it's his motion.
Point of order, since this is a change to the ordinance, don't we need a supermajority?
You do, but not to his motion.
Not to his motion. We need a majority to table it. I will say I'm in favor of tabling it for all the same reasons that have been expressed. But is there anybody else who wants to make a comment?
Again, I would say this ordinance has been enforced for only 3 months. For us to make any changes at such an early stage, particularly with regard to the environmental sensitivities of this small island, is completely premature.
My comment to that is, given that it's only been enforced for 3 months, and we've had all of this feedback from merchants for drop in sales, and we're heading into the time of year that we are all just trying to stay afloat, those of us who stay open year-round mostly, it is very important that we do discuss this at this point, in my opinion, and for the merchant's opinion, to address it now before going into our off-season.
Let's take a vote, if you will, on tabling. And then if it's not tabled, it would take a majority to table it. If it's not tabled, we can proceed to a vote. Okay, all in favor of tabling the motion, say, raise your hand. So can you see the people, or would you like to do a roll call?
Roll call would be great.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Bart, in favor or opposed to tabling the motion? Opposed.
Opposed.
Opposed. Barbara?
I'm for, but I'd like to put an emphasis on the education and let that, I think that will, if we can come out strong with the educational component, that will help some of this. I think it's even more confusing to.
Okay, you just comment, you're opposed or for? You're for. You're for table.
For more, yeah.
I'm for.
I'm opposed.
I'm for.
I'm for.
For?
Opposed.
Opposed.
This is
To table it till next meeting.
Opposed.
I don't have it yet, sorry.
I counted 6. The motion fails.
Yeah. Motion fails.
Now, the motion on the floor is Mr. Drake's motion.
Ron works.
So, yeah, the motion on the floor. Does everyone understand what the motion on the floor is? Okay?
Michael, maybe you could.
The motion is to, let's just say relax or eliminate the non-residential zone parking restrictions from June 1st through October 1st, or however the sign's going to say it. That's the time frame.
Aye, aye.
Okay. Any further comment before we vote?
Yes, I have a question. For this to pass, needs a supermajority.
Yes.
You need 12 members approving this, otherwise it fails.
Thank you.
All right. I think we need a roll
And just
call.
one other clarification. This would just be to make a recommendation to the commissioners, and then they would have to actually take it up and vote on
That
it.
is correct. It's
Okay.
a recommendation.
Okay. So, I'd like to move the question All in favor of moving the question?
Let's take
Is there a second?
roll call. There was a
Roll
second
call.
already.
Yeah, and moving the question. Just ending discussion is the point. Okay, we can do the roll call.
In favor.
Opposed.
Wait, so we're.
This is, the
Yeah, no.
motion is now the discussion of whether we decide today to relax or eliminate the time restriction on parking
We already did that.
from,
No, it was the
no, this is, now we're deciding whether we want to or not want
Right.
to do
I
it.
thought we
Yes.
just did it last.
Yes, so this is the question. Do you want to relax the parking restriction in the non-residential area from October 1st?
June 1st to
I'm sorry,
October.
June 1st until October 1st or September 3rd.
No, not now. I think
So-
it's just, no.
Opposed. So you're a no.
Opposed.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are you catching up?
Yeah. No, I missed the second vote. Was that opposed?
Yes, yes.
Yes. I'm a yes.
No, no, no,
Thank you,
yes,
Michael.
yes.
And I'm a no.
All right. Done.
That's it.
I'm a no.
Let's record
I
the
was,
votes.
I was waiting for it to catch up.
I'm a no.
I'm a yes.
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 Can we just
It-
vote?
It dies for lack of a supermajority.
And, okay, and what was the vote? Do you have your count?
I don't, no,
Okay.
4,
8-7.
5, 6.
How about people raise their hands and then you can see?
it's sorry, I just don't know names.
Yeah,
I'm
she-
new.
that's why she wanted to roll.
Yeah.
So we
I was
should
just
say our
doing the
names when
Yeah.
we're voting. We
Yeah, we
actually
should
should
say
say
our
our names when
yes.
we're voting.
You want to do an official roll call? How's that?
Let's do it.
Okay.
There were
I'm just
6
gonna use
opposed.
First names. Boo.
Yes, for it.
Lewis.
Opposed.
Hugh.
Opposed.
Bart.
In favor.
Ronald.
In favor.
Cheryl.
In favor.
Sarah is absent. Tanya.
In favor.
Kim Burley.
In favor.
Barbara.
Opposed.
Sandy.
For.
Richard.
Opposed.
Richard G.
Opposed.
Richard
Sorry.
W. Sorry about that.
Opposed.
Bruce.
Opposed.
And Mark. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed.
And one not here. Can we just explain for the benefit of the committee, if someone wants to revisit this question, what are the rules on
Good luck, Ron.
revisiting something that has failed to pass?
In order to bring up or a motion for reconsideration or a rehearing on an item, you must have been on the winning side, and you must do it before the next, well, either now or the next hearing. After that, then it's no longer allowed.
Which is the winning side?
In other words, you have to be somebody who opposed it today, has to want to bring it up again for further discussion.
Okay.
So there were some people who opposed it today because they didn't think we should decide this today.
Well,
They may want to bring it up again. They can do so. And if there's a second,
If there's, but just to be clear, the issue of seasonality is not, I mean, we know it's a broad topic, but this particular motion is what we're talking about.
I would like to make a motion that we reconsider this at our next meeting.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. That just requires a majority. So
We'll
this
add
will
that.
be on the agenda at the next meeting. There could have been discussion on that, I'm sorry. You're correct me. Would someone like discussion? We can retake the vote.
I just think it would be helpful if there was, if someone were able to take this on and make a suggestion with concrete areas of relaxing, and whether it's continued relaxing, whether it's relaxing only, say, 4 to 4 hours, talking to the merchants. If we're just going to re-vote on exactly what we voted on today, I don't see it. If there is some feedback, having talked to the merchants, having talked to the inn, having talked to some of the residents who are around here, I think then we would have more information to reconsider. If it's nothing but the same thing, I don't understand it.
My motion was that we reconsider the concept of a suspension of the parking restrictions in the non-residential areas at our next meeting.
Will you accept an amendment that we appoint somebody to look into this more and bring us more information?
I'm not opposed, but
That's not the right way to do it.
But really what we're doing is putting everyone on notice that we're going to talk about this next meeting, and they're going to have an opportunity to send letters and to provide comment. That's what I think is important. I don't think we need anybody to investigate on our behalf.
The motion I heard was to reconsider the motion.
Right.
Not the topic. Okay, to answer your question, that's what I heard, the same thing you heard. So we bring in the same motion back on the next meeting, which would give you the same opportunity to have people show up on that particular issue. But
I want to make it clear in our agenda that we're going to consider specifically suspending parking regulations in the non-residential areas at our next meeting.
Okay, good. So that doesn't prevent any or all of us from talking to merchants, talking to hotel operators, talking to residents to understand the situation personally and share what you learn at the next meeting, but importantly is this points out to people who know that they can comment. The other thing I want to point out is some people, I'm sorry. It's important to have the mic for this, that if people in the community want to comment on anything before the committee, and they're, whether or not you come and speak, you can always email your comment to Boca Grande Parking Committee at legov.com. And by doing that, your letters will be sent around to the committee so that we see it. Okay. Losing track. The next item on our agenda is to discuss the request from the fishing captains to allow their customers to permit them to park on residential streets within a block of their dock. There has been a development, important development since our last meeting, and that is that the Guides Association has had discussion with the Gasparilla Inn, and the Gasparilla Inn has graciously allowed and put in writing that I believe that the term was customers of fishing charters operating out of the dock on 5th Street will be able to park in the private property owned by the inn that is the grass lot just south of the parking lot for the Pink Elephant. I received a call, just full disclosure, from the person who runs the Boca Grande Guides Association, saying that he was very happy with this outcome and that there was no need to consider his proposal. He thought this was a better solution. That's one point of information. The other point of information is that in talking to the inn, it is clear that they're not requiring the guide to be a member of the Guides Association. Because there are some historic fishing guides who have operated on the island for decades and have chosen not to join that. This is an offer being made to the customers of fishing charters or guides. I can't recall which term was used in the letter. And it's not restricted just to members of the Guides Association. So with that, I ask, is there a need for further conversation?
No. I was going to make a motion that we accept yes.
Yeah, it's not it's a private dealing. And let me just say, this is.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So that, just for clarification, that's in addition to the parking spots on the opposite side that are already delineated in the ordinance?
Exactly.
And is there a way, so does this get written at all into a record anywhere?
Well, no, this is a decision by a private property owner, and they intend to post a sign indicating that customers of fishing charters leaving the dock at Fifth Street may park in that area.
Okay, thank you.
My question about it was like time frame. Was that discussed with Brent, like into the future, that's going to be kind of an agreement between the inn and the fishermen into the future?
I've read the letter, and you all have the letter. It doesn't specify a time frame. I would suggest, because it's private property, there's nothing that prevents them from revisiting the issue if they had a change in plans, they wanted to build a building there for some reason. But then I would expect, and I mentioned that to the fishing guides, or the head of the Guide Association, and he understands there's no plan to do that in the near term, and that if they have a problem in the future, they can come back to us. So, let me just say before we move on, one, I think it was very generous of the inn to accommodate something once again to help the community as a whole. And so I personally thank them for that. But the other is, I think this is a terrific example of the people who are closest to an issue are generally the best to find a solution. And I would just encourage on all issues that members of the community would like to see this committee do something. First, talk to the people who are affected and see if you can't work out something and come to us with a joint proposal, rather than having us referee every little thing on the island. So this is an example where that worked extremely well. So, okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion of the proposal from the Methodist Church to allow them to access the median south of 3rd Street for parking. Any comments that people would like to make?
Make one, and I obviously, sensitive to the needs of both the residents and the church. And I know that, in getting this ordinance to the finish line required a lot of work and cooperation and concessions on both sides between residents and the various churches. I'm sympathetic to both sides. My thought right now, particularly as we're entering the very slow summer months, is I would recommend that the residents and the church try and make another effort to work something out together that they can both agree on, and that would make it, best, compromise amongst themselves, and then we can take this up. I don't know if it's possible, if they're, at a complete impasse, but I would like to see that a deal get done between the affected residents and the churches, and the Methodist Church.
I should share information with the committee. Unfortunately, because of sunshine laws, I wasn't able to. But first of all, I was involved in the conversations between the churches and the neighbors when the ordinance was originally written, and there was compromise on both sides. And both sides agreed to the language in the ordinance. But there were items that they were agreed with reservation. In other words, we'll give that a try in the spirit of compromise, but if it doesn't work, we're coming back at you. This was one of those items. So just to be clear, this is not being done without warning that it was going to be a stretch from their point of view. When it was brought up in September to me, even after the full church leadership of both churches had signed off, the Methodist Church brought this up in September before they had any experience with it, because at least some of the church leadership had an issue with it. We asked them to table it, live with it, and bring it to the committee if they had a problem, so here they are. When I heard that it was likely to be coming, I asked for a meeting between a church leader and a couple of the neighbors with the hope of getting a joint agreement. What came out of that and subsequent conversations did create some compromise and move people closer together. Didn't get the job done. And what I will tell you is there are other issues related, and some of them Reverend Daphne mentioned one, which is there are off-island members, a substantial portion of their church, who don't have residential permits, and even though the ordinance allows them to park on the street anytime they're going to a meeting at the church, it's not only on Sunday. The sign still says you can't, and it's a $200 fine. So there was a suggestion originally in the discussions of all this that it would be easier for enforcement and church members if they had a little placard to put in their glove box that they could put on the dashboard, and they could use it when parking if they don't have a permit on a residential street within a block of the church. They could also use it when parking on the median, so that enforcement can tell whether the person parking on the median is indeed part of the event or not. At the time that suggestion didn't fly, it may be revisited. What has happened is there's a few issues between the Methodist Church and the neighbors in particular. I'd encourage them to see if they can't work it out and find ways to make it possible for people to park where they need to park. Recognize that there is value to convenience, and that having to hunt around 3 or 4 different places isn't necessarily the way someone wants to start their Sunday morning. On the other hand, our event permits are meant to be when there's not an expectation of sufficient parking on the street. And I think the spirit of it is that people will park on the street rather than the median, and go to the median when the street is full, particularly for events. And so I think there's some issues that are probably extra challenges for the Methodist Church around that they could problem solve together. And my hope is that together they might come back to us with a joint proposal. If, at a minimum, I think they could have the problem better understood by all sides. Because right now I think each is very good at seeing their own side of the problem. You will see in what was circulated, just again, full disclosure, my picture was actually, or I was in 2 of the pictures in one of the letters. That is because at the request of the Methodist Church on Sunday morning, I went and observed what Randy Reed was doing each week, trying to direct people where they couldn't park. He asked me to experience it with him, which I did. The writer of the letter, who is a neighbor, came by and saw me, and we all spoke for a minute, and then he asked me to take a walk with him, which I did. He was taking pictures. So one picture is me talking to Randy Reed, and the other one has me standing up with my finger pointing. I want you to know what I was pointing at was not empty parking spaces. I was pointing at the fact that on Sunday morning, even Park Avenue has a number of cars parking on it for other purposes, and you can't assume that everything on Park Avenue is going to be open. So I just wanted to share that background, lest people read into partial information, different motives on my part. So, so I would like to make a motion. Did you make the motion already? No. I would like to make a motion that we table this to our next meeting, and that we encourage the churches and the neighbors to continue working on it. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Thank you. Sandy Stewart. All right. Any discussion on that motion?
I personally, I would hope that if they came back with a compromise, there was a discussion about event parking, which I think it felt like there was excessive event parking during the season. I would hope that any compromise would include that.
And now we're going to have discussion?
Yeah, we're discussing the motion to table it. So this is a question of...
I'm unclear as to why we're talking about event parking. They're asking only for parking on Sundays and for Christmas.
Yeah.
So this does not involve event parking at all. They're asking for one day of the week and from 8 to 1 when their services are being held.
Yeah. And just to clarify, in the discussions between the neighbors and the churches, event parking with respect to the Methodist Church has been an issue. And I think they're much more likely to reach agreement if they come back to us with a bundled solution. That's not a requirement. They can come back to us with whatever proposal they want, or they can come back to us and say they couldn't agree on anything.
And I'm going to say something too. Go ahead.
Yes. Let me just help on process.
Well, it's not process. I'm getting an impression that I don't think people know what's in the ordinance.
Okay, can you clarify that?
The ordinance provides that an organization on Gilchrist, the Methodist Church being one of them, for any of their events, special event or church services, can park on the Gilchrist on the park from 8 to 1, but also in the residential zone for any of their events, which includes the on-street parkings. So I'm not sure where the issue is, because nothing's been restricted for their church events.
South, yeah.
3rd Street is restricted.
Yeah, yes, it is. This is only parking, they're allowed to park on the median north of 3rd Street.
No, the ordinance provides vehicles parked for attendance at an event sponsored by an organization facilities are located as of January, blah, 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 on Gilchrist Avenue, that's where the organizations are permitted to park in that area of the residential zone that's within 1 block of the sponsoring organization's facility.
Yeah, that's on the street, not the Gilchrist median.
Correct.
The Gilchrist median
It's
is what's
just-
at issue, and that's only between 3rd and 5th Street that they can get an event permit or use it on Sundays. Okay? And so they are asking to be able to use the Gilchrist median in addition to that between 2nd and 3rd. On Sundays and on Christmas Eve. No other events. That was the compromise they've already made, as noted.
And the question I have is the people that are between 2nd and 3rd Street, they're objecting to that they don't want that on Sunday? And there's huge opposition.
You've heard from, writing from 2 of them, but they have been talking to them. So that is the issue. Yes.
I don't know if this is, to use a bad religious pun, kosher or not, but if any of the parties are here, can we just get a sense of, is this issue intractable, or do they think it's solvable? What do they think about, having another month?
I don't have any objection to asking to you.
We don't. You can bring somebody up.
Is there anybody who's either a member of the Methodist Church or in the neighborhood who would like to share their view as to whether an agreement can be reached? But I'd also like to hear Peter. Peter's been directly involved in the conversations. Would you mind commenting first, Peter?
Maybe come up to the podium, yeah.
Yeah.
Is Daphne?
I guess somebody has to. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, we've spoken with them and we've been talking to them, but the sense that I've got right now is that, and I'm new to the neighborhood. I just want everybody to know. I mean, I'm very new, two and a half months. So I can't say that I'm an expert on what's going on by any stretch of the imagination. I just felt good reasons told me, why do we have to be so hurried about this? I just felt it was very rushed, and I don't see any reason for it to be rushed. This could be something that could be settled maybe as late as November or, a much later meeting. We're into the summer right now. I don't think there is an issue right now. And I've been making some observations, and in my note to you all, email, indicated that I hate to say this, but I think we have a little bit of a bad habit. is my observation on Gilchrist. And I've been going to church on Gilchrist for a long time. And the funniest things that I have experienced is where people have just literally, by habit, pulled into the median when there's parking literally, sometimes even closer to the church, on the streets.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that these are not issues that ought to be looked at if you have no other options, but it seems to me that we're jumping ahead of this a little bit. And I don't see any reason why you get into a hurry. That's all.
Okay. The specific question is whether or not there's a prospect for an agreement.
Well, and to the prospect, always there's going to be a prospect.
Okay.
I don't think that, I'm not, you all don't know me very well, but I'm not a guy that sits there and sticks my head in the sand or
You have
something
no
like that.
objection to tabling this? and
But I'm just asking
continue to
for
work.
some time on this. Let's see what happens as we go forward. I think this is, the whole purpose of this is, I would think, is to see what the ordinance does and then start taking action. Now, the Methodist Church may have felt they were being offered something that was going to be much sooner. I wasn't a party to that. I'm just a person who lives on Gilchrist right now that seems to see this is not a hurried thing that needs to be decided today.
Yeah. Is there anyone from the Methodist Church who would like to comment?
There's someone ahead of me.
Okay.
I'm Ann Fletcher. I think they really should consider valet parking on those extreme times. People have private parties and do valet parking. Restaurants use valet parking. Churches use valet parking. And it's something that they really should consider before they just continually try to land grab and park cars on the Gilchrist median.
Yeah.
They've made no other effort to do anything else. And I would like to
And before you go further, this isn't the time to argue for or against. We're just looking for, because we need to be fair to the public, there's a time when that's been allocated. You've had your 3 minutes. This is specifically just a question of whether you see a prospect for a compromise.
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. She was not.
So I thank you for asking. And as the church and as folks that love this community, there's always, I would hope, room for us to discuss and work together. We have actually worked hard to do that. Sadly, though, I'm a little heartbroken at when you mentioned that we should try and work together, there was an audible laugh from the other party. So would I love for us to be able to come together as a community? Yes. Am I fearful that that is not a possibility? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we? Have a motion to
I'm lost.
I think we have a motion to table it till the next meeting. Was there a second on that motion? Second. And is there more discussion?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I think did
Sandy had seconded it. I'm just short-term memory issue here with all this going on. So is there any further discussion before we take a vote on whether to table it? Yes, Mark.
We may have missed an opportunity before when there was an opportunity to vote to table, and I just wanted to bring that up as a point of procedure, and that being because the previous motion was not tabled, there was a vote that didn't have the supermajority. It was by the grace of Richard there that he brought it up at the next meeting. So if we don't have the votes after we don't table, then we've gone down to where you have one final bite, so to speak, right? So if it's tabled, it leaves the
unless somebody.
I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that that's
exactly. Unless somebody who, if it's not tabled and it doesn't pass, if somebody who votes no wants to bring it up again and gets a second, it can be revisited. It has to be somebody who voted no.
Just to be clear, on that particular motion.
Yes.
You can make other motions.
You can make other motions on the same general topic. You can take a different approach at future meetings, anytime.
So we are down to, there are 12 of us here now, right? So
It would have to be
It would
unanimous.
have to be unanimous, right?
So, again, part of the thinking on reasons to table. To be clear, as of now, we will not have 12, excuse me, Cheryl, I want to make sure everyone understands. As of now, we don't have 12 people coming to the next meeting. So I'd like to modify my motion to say a future meeting where, rather than, because I don't know, we're going to decide when our next meeting is. I don't know whether the next meeting would have 12 people. And so I'd like to discuss it when we will have 12 people.
And I agree to that.
Yes, and Sandy agrees, so that's.
One of the suggestions I had was to treat this committee similar to we do with the Charter Committee, and this is, I will try not to interrupt as much as I can. You're going to have a number of items that come up and propose amendments to the ordinance. We, as the county staff and as you can imagine, the Board of County Commissioners are not going to want to take one piece at a time and go back and amend this ordinance all at a time. What we do in the charter review is the items are discussed at different meetings. They'll call up the certain agenda items and it'll be discussed. And then at some point, we'll set a time, a date, to actually hear motions and have a formal okay, yes or no on the particular item. And if we do it that way, we won't foreclose all concepts and we won't have to worry about, somebody's not going to be here next month, so when are you going to have the meeting? To actually make a decision when you don't have, 12. So you might want to consider as a committee to follow the charter review concept and talk about these items and then set a particular date to have the final vote on them at one time and make sure everybody's here, or the 12 members, or at least 12 people will be here.
And to be clear, part of the purpose of that is because Lee County is not going to want to hold public hearings on our ordinance 3 times a year or 4 times a year.
Right.
So we need to bundle our requests if we're going to have a chance of getting it on the agenda and heard. And, if we request something, it only becomes the change if the Board of Commissioners discusses it, has a formal hearing, and then votes to accept it.
And they don't meet in July, correct? Are the commissioners, the Lee County Commissioners, I don't think meets in July?
Their typical July recess, I don't know
Okay.
when their actual last
Thank you.
board meeting is. It'll be sometime in June.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. So the motion is to table this topic until a future meeting when we will have a full committee attendance. All in favor? Aye? Anybody opposed?
No, I'm an aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously. All right. The next item on the agenda is discussion of a permit for off-island service providers.
Could you explain for me, and for the people that are here, what the requirement is for parking for service providers both on the island and off the island? Because as you read the permits A, B, C, and D, they're not included in any of them, but they are included as an exception to being able to park. So could you just explain that and what, if any, permit they actually need?
You are correct. They do not need a permit. They are accepted from the parking restrictions. So whether it's a non-residential for more than 3 hours, any of these restrictions, service providers are not. If they get ticketed, they need to address that with the sheriff and whatever their process is for objecting to or getting a ticket torn up. But as of right now, they do not need a permit. Now, what is a service provider? Flip a coin. It's almost anything from housekeeping to tile work to pavers, lawn care, all of that stuff. So right now, the problems that the enforcement has is how do you identify a vehicle that is parked in the median or parked in the residential area if there's no signage on the car or the vehicle? Obviously, some things are easy to determine, but that's an enforcement issue. You really don't need an ordinance change to address that.
So that people understand, because I've had conversations with Deputy Zawicki about this, the issue is that it's very hard for him to tell who's who. The solution that he has adopted is to say that if you have permanent markings on your vehicle, and then they modified it to say you can have a magnetic sign indicating that you're a work vehicle, and only during the provision of services, you can park on a residential street. You can't lend your work vehicle out to your kids to go to the beach on the weekends, which has happened. That's what the question is, housekeepers, et cetera. What he has suggested is that we all give house gas passes to a service provider while they're there. And if they're regular, he's even said, look, if they need to keep it, and that's okay, get another pass, but just make sure they only use it when they're there servicing a residence. So that has been the solution so far. And it's been an education. My impression personally is that it's working. It just took some education.
Time consuming.
Mark.
I had a vendor with an experience where they were ticketed. I spoke with law enforcement. They use a digital format. As soon as it's signed, it's in. So the only recourse for that vendor was to take the day to go before the judge. So I think that's very onerous for people. I did advise vendors to have markings, whether it be a magnetic sign or whatever, and they didn't follow instructions. They knew they didn't do what they needed to do, but there is no recourse once they hit that button.
But you can go online and do it online with them, or
You can challenge online.
That's
Okay.
that's what they've told me.
Okay.
But,
I don't have the facts.
and we issued, for a housekeeper and an in-home caregiver, we went and got stickers for those cars. Someone that comes 2-3 times a week to your home and also works at other homes on the island, I was able to get a sticker for that employee.
Technically, I'm not sure that's a provision in the ordinance. They have to be an employee of an island business, if I'm not mistaken, but
It's a home guest.
yeah, that's why it's the house guest pass rather than the sticker technically.
Yeah, it's not the same, but,
Yeah.
that's what they
It
told me
worked,
we were supposed
yes.
to.
And they were willing to, you were
The other thing, I
disclosed
know
it
it's
fully.
not totally on topic, but I do think we need to address, and I think it came up at our last meeting, those passes are very tricky, because if people use them, they've gone to other places where you get a paper pass, John's Island, let's say, and it goes away with you when you leave. I've had siblings that go home, they're like, oh, Jesus, I forgot to give the pass back. And we've actually laminated our passes so that they are more permanent, but it's tricky for someone. So to remember, I think they do need, going forward, maybe when they're issued next year, they need to be something more permanent and more substantial, that people know that they're borrowing it during their stay and returning it at the end.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I don't love this mic. So let's just say we have a construction vendor who doesn't have, they have a local PO box on the island, but they don't have a brick and mortar. We all know that there are only so many brick and mortar spaces on the island, right? But I had a contractor tell me last night, sort of the same experience Mark is talking about. The guys had been doing glass work for literally 20 years on the island. They're in a white van, right? We all know how many of those there are. So they got their own $200+ ticket for that. So in a situation like that, would that cost be passed on then to the homeowner? Like, do we then end up paying the price for that? Or,
That's totally between the homeowner and the contractor. I will tell you, I had a contractor that I had told a number of times. He's got an aluminum vehicle, so he couldn't use the magnetic solution. He got a ticket. His vehicle did have other markings, and the ticket was made out to the company, so it really shouldn't have been written in the first place. Rather than send both parties down to Lee County, I paid the ticket, just to say, but please don't make this mistake again, because I have a house guest pass for him. So at any rate, that's why I say there's some learning involved. I would suggest that anybody who's been operating on this island 10 years and is a regular operating on the island can do what some of my subs have done, which is get a magnetic sign for their truck if they don't want to have it, or their car, if they don't want to have it on all the time. The sheriff has decided any indication, including, he told me, when to deal with this magnetic issue, have them get a decal on the window on the inside indicating that it's a business. And as long as they're there doing service, they're good. So on this particular issue, are there other comments? Yes.
Just, is the sheriff's office said that this is a widespread problem? I mean, obviously, Mark, there are going to be some incidents like this, but is it something that's widespread?
I don't know. In fact, I'm not even sure it was the sheriff that asked for this to be brought up.
And is there anything that people are asking for?
I believe it was the chamber. I think Gary Cross
Yeah,
wanted
I think-
this on the agenda because he was getting a lot of feedback from our service workers.
Service workers off island were giving.
It's education.
Yeah,
education.
yeah.
Okay.
They're in a better position now, not needing a permit than.
Exactly, yeah. We actually tried to make it easy for them.
Ask who they're working for.
Yeah.
Asked by contractors, and I used the guest pass.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion then? If not, let's move on to the last one, which is a discussion of the equalization of fines in front of commercial driveways to be the same as fines in front of residential driveways. Discussion?
What's the disparity right now?
Rich, you brought it up. Do you want to speak?
My motion would be that we equalize the penalty for parking in a residential driveway, or excuse me, for parking in front of a commercial driveway to be equal to that of parking in a residential driveway. And I believe it's $500. And I believe the fine currently for parking in a commercial driveway is only $35. So I would propose that we amend the ordinance, we amend the ordinance to equalize those fines to $500.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Is there a second? Rick Denon is second. Or Richard, officially.
Does the ordinance say that, I thought it said 300 to 500 as opposed to a specific dollar amount? Can we just check that?
1 minute. But whatever it is, the motion is to equalize.
But it does matter what it is. It's been interpreted as 500, I know, and I remember at the commissioners' meeting, what was proposed was 500 and accepted by the commissioners. I hope that's what ended up in the ordinance.
500 for blocking a residential driveway.
And so the issue is that they inserted the word residential. So
It doesn't say commercial anywhere?
no, so the commercial is covered by the other ordinances, which is the county ordinance, which is a $35 fine. So the proposal, I think, Rich, would you accept an amendment to be that you strike the word residential in the...
That would be acceptable.
Thank you.
And does he accept it?
I'm not sure the second has to accept, but he...
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
I think they do.
They do, okay, yep.
So has this been a problem?
The sheriff reached out to me to talk about it, to make sure they had it clear, but other than that, we told them we'd address it if it came up in the committee.
So have they written any tickets for that? They didn't say.
I think they're reluctant to write a $500 ticket in the first instance, so...
I know someone who's done that.
Yeah. So is there, yeah, more discussion? We've got a motion on the table.
Can I just take a motion again, please?
The motion would be to eliminate the word residential so that the $500 fine for blocking a driveway applies to all driveways on the island, in the Lee County portion of the island. Any other comments? Okay. Then with that, I'll start with a voice vote, and if it's not unanimous, we'll do roll call. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
I would like to congratulate all of us who've had 2 unanimous votes today.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
All is not lost.
Yeah, so we do have a supermajority. All right. With that, we have presentation of topics by the Lee County staff.
As much as I love to speak on this matter, in light of the public's time and your time, and if I could ask that we just continue the 112 discussion until the next meeting, or if you want to just push it to the end of the agenda after everyone had their piece, it's fine, but I don't want to waste your time with that in light of how late we've already been.
At a minimum, I'd push it to the end of the agenda. Are people okay just deferring that to a future meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody opposed to doing that? No. Good. Thank you.
The quick update on the conflict resolution meeting. We had that meeting. It was attended by a few members of the public, but mainly it was staff and the commissioners from both counties. There was some discussion from both sides. I can't tell you there was any concrete suggestion as to a solution. Seasonality was discussed, some discussion on ADA, and there was a lot of discussion on jurisdiction and whose authority is to address the issue with parking on Boca Grande. Ultimately, out of that meeting came an agreement by both the counties to stay any further conflict resolution process for 180 days, allow the sides to discuss alternatives with regards to reaching a compromise, but no specifics were really provided. And that's pretty much it. That's where we stand, so we're sort of in a staying process.
I have a question. Was there discussion about possible solutions of some state property? And did you get the overall feeling like that was a kind of favorable on both parts?
They did talk about that. Both parts said, let's look into it. I've seen the documents. That's next to impossible to happen with regards to the reservations and the dedication language in the document. So we haven't formally said that's a dead stick, but I'll tell you right now.
The reason why I was asking was because if we could lobby our state legislators for them to, free up some land that's the state land and had paid parking, they would get the revenues and everything, would just provide more parking.
I think the problem comes down to the conveyance and the restrictions it had on it, and the reverter language that's provided in that document that ultimately would kill any process that was discussed.
It just so everyone has the background, this is the Open Shores proposal to put a 400-car parking lot in what is now a state-owned conservation area that is across the road from the parking lot at the rear range light, the Sand Spur parking lot officially, close to Wheeler Road. That land was donated by the Sharp family, and it was donated with a deed that keeps it as a conservation area. They're not even allowed to cut down native trees, or the property automatically reverts back to the GICA for ownership. So it's a non-starter. That said, there has been discussion about what could be done to expand parking in state parks in the area. And Rich, did you want to say anything about that? Okay. So there are, there's between Don Pedro and Stump Pass, there's about 2.25 miles of beautiful beach with no homes that's state park, and access is very limited. There's only one is on an island, and the other has only 45 cars to park in. There may be, I don't know, room for additional parking in some of our state lots currently that are open, What I will say is many of them were also donated. A good portion of our state park beaches on this island was actually private land owned by the Sharp family that they donated for the purposes that they're currently being used. And there are conservation-oriented restrictions on these other properties as well. It's not every parking lot, but on many of them. But there's a process, I think, defined in the documents for evaluating things.
That's helpful background information. Thanks.
The one other, the actual only concrete idea that was tossed around was providing a permit for bridge annual pass holders. And that's the end of my notes.
That was a proposal by Charlotte County.
Yeah, they
not one that they agree, not one that Lee County agreed to
No,
take
there was
up.
no agreement to that. It was just one of the things they brought up.
Yeah. Okay. With that, is there any public comment on items that were not on today's agenda? Nobody else wishing to speak? All right. We wore everybody out. Oh, there is one. I'm sorry, I can't see. Yes, come forward, please, to the mic.
Hi there. I'm Dusty Hopkins. I live on the island. Been here for about 40 years. My question is about the substance, the argument or the disbelief that people are losing money. Okay, may I suggest that you check with the sales tax people? That was reported to us on Sanibel that they had the same problem, and the number came back, it was 21% that they lost in sales tax revenue. So there's a real number you can hang your hat on.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, with that, we have presentation of topics by board members. So this would be primarily suggestions for issues for us to take up at future meetings, not necessarily the next meeting, but please highlight it if you think it needs to be on the agenda the next meeting.
I think education, we've already talked about education, but I think that, it's like proper signage in education, and solve many things.
So that should come back at the next, yep.
Golf carts. We talked about
Can you use the mic just a minute?
We talked about golf carts last time, I think, and when we all went kind of down the row, we kind of missed adding that to the agenda, or today's agenda was so full. But the golf cart, the rental companies on island who rent to overnight guests, they are requesting that they get to distribute their own passes. And just sort of as a sidebar, we all probably know that golf carts are included in this. Literally, I found out last week that there were people who didn't even know that. So that would be my suggestion, which wouldn't really involve an ordinance change.
I believe it would involve, at a minimum, a change in the administrative code.
Okay. Does it say in the administrative code now that the hotels and the rental agencies issue their own passes?
The hotels, yes.
And is that in the ordinance as well?
I don't think we went that far in the ordinance.
So for instance,
don't
like
think we
Miller's
did.
Marina, they rent golf carts, but they're not a hotel. So therefore, they should be able to issue a day pass for their rental.
Right, or an yes,
Right.
yes, the house guest pass or whatever it's called, right.
Well, there've been, what the golf cart companies proposed, I believe, was that they would be able to issue them to people who are indeed staying on the island
Right.
overnight.
Right.
That's what
Or
they
a day,
said.
or if they're ready or
But
golf
they
cart
did
or
not
whatever,
ask
or-
for it for the day,
Right.
because they know that's a much higher hill to climb in terms of getting approval.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess we can get into it, but think about what is it, if you're gonna need a permit, we have to create a new permit, then that's an ordinance change.
Well, the rental companies now have their own version. You want me to speak this? I'm sorry. They have their own version of the white house guest passes. And so I think that's what the golf cart people are asking for, again, for the people who are staying overnight, that they are responsible for getting the passes, like the rental agencies give their own overnight passes with their little stamps on it or whatever, that the golf cart people could do that also.
The code, well, we won't get into the topic, we understand. That's what you'd like to have on the agenda. Yeah, good. I'd like to add, and this, I'll take guidance if we aren't supposed to talk about it, okay? We don't have any jurisdiction over state parks, but there's no doubt that state parks affect the island experience, the parking at state parks. So if it's appropriate, I'd like to add 2 items for discussion at the next meeting, and with the idea that we would make a recommendation to the proper authorities. One would be that we evaluate whether it's possible in a low environmental impact way to put a golf cart only additional parking at the state parks. My reason for doing that is that our state parks have very low density, which is part of the wonderful experience, by the way.
Well, that's not really true.
Well, I have data that it is.
Well, you gave the data, but I can tell you I'm there.
Okay, our golf, again, without getting into the topic.
You want to restrict cars?
No, I don't. I want to add spaces. I don't want to eliminate any spaces for cars.
Making new spaces, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yes. No. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about adding spaces. I think it is going to be difficult to add spaces and be in compliance with the deed restrictions in most of our state parks. I haven't studied it, but I've heard that. They may be able to add some. And so I raised the question in a conditional statement, if it can be done in an environmentally friendly way, if they could add even 40 golf cart spaces. Let's face it, I mean, bluntly, islanders aren't going to use it. Who's going to use it? People renting golf carts during the day. So it's one thing we could do to help the businesses, the golf cart businesses, if it doesn't hurt the parks, and help the merchants, because it brings more people to the island, and puts them in an appropriate place, which is, the beautiful state parks we have, that in general, the lots are full. What I'm saying is the density of parking spaces per 100 feet of beach is very small, okay? So at any rate, I'd like to, that would be one thing I'd like to have on the agenda, have discussed. The other thing I'd like to have on the...
You're going to come there with a cart.
Pardon?
There are going to be people that have golf carts that live on the island.
No, well, we can let's have the discussion later. This is just a discussion of whether it's on the agenda, Bart. The other thing I'd like to consider with respect to the state parks is that they provide 2 things. One is on a website or an app, and many parks do this, real-time data on parking spaces available, so that before people come over the bridge, they can know a little bit. And the other is that some portion of the spaces on the island and state parks could be reserved up to 24 hours in advance, so that those who want to be able to plan their day with their family can do so. I know it would be wrong to do it to all, because then this, the spontaneous visitor couldn't come, but we could do it for some. They could charge a fee if they want. I'm not getting into that, but I'd like to at least have that on the agenda for discussion.
I think that idea terrible.
Bart, we're not discussing, Bart,
Is the data going to be accurate? Who's going to keep that data and who's going to put it up on?
okay.
And it's going to scare people from coming on the island.
Yeah, Bart, are you willing to have a discussion on the topic?
Discussion.
Okay, then let's hold it. We're only talking about whether something goes on our agenda. Please stick to that. So those were the two items that I wanted to put on. Are there other items?
I just have a question about that. Are the state parks regulated by Lee County, and do we even have the jurisdiction to?
No, that's the point. We would just be making a recommendation to whoever is managing it.
I'm willing to discuss it.
That it might be something helpful to the island, to the golf cart companies, and to the merchants, so. And also helpful to off-island people so they can plan a weekend with their family.
Back to the agenda and the education, not to backtrack, but I brought it up quickly last time. We do need to educate people about the golf cart parking right in the middle of town that's right across from Hudson's. On my way here today, there was one golf cart there and one bicycle. There are 21 spots there. And we need to educate our general community as well as our visitors that that is prime location for shopping. There's no limits. There, you can go to Hudson's, you can go to all the stores, you can go to Sisters, you can go to the Temp and have a cocktail. Leave your golf cart right there.
Leave the space for customers who come from off-island.
It's right on the bike path in the center.
There are 100 spots that are unmetered.
Yeah, there's 100.
I use them all the time now.
There's 104 parking spots and 40 golf cart spots downtown, in the downtown area that are owned by the, there are 104 parking, I'm doing this off my top of my head, so I'm told that there are 104 parking spots and 40 golf cart spots in the general downtown area that are owned by the GICIA, available to the general public without a time limit.
I have a question.
Yes.
With respect to time limit. If I park my car in a 3-hour space, and I move that car at 2 hours and 59 minutes to another space, are they enforcing that? How is that?
The way the ordinance is written,
In Revere, you can do that all day.
I think you can probably do that. Now, that could be a topic for the committee. Many jurisdictions would put things in zones, so the time limit applies to parking in the zone. So you could only park in the non-residential zone or some portion thereof, so that you don't have that going on. The idea is don't let people hog spaces.
But that's part of the education thing too, because people off island that don't really understand think they're only allowed to come to Boca Grande for 3 hours and someone's gonna say, go away. That's not the case at all. If you want to come shop at Boo Jeems, go to J. McLaughlin, go to have a cocktail at the Temptation and then have your dinner at South Beach, you're welcome to be here for many, many hours.
Yeah, and all these hourly restrictions end at 5 o'clock.
To be clear, the ordinance provides 3 hours within the time frame. It does not provide you 5:59 or 6 hours or however long. It provides 3 hours between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So if you're the sheriff's officer, you see the same vehicle, you're going to be subject to whether or not they read that as 3 hours in one spot or 3 hours in a non-residential zone.
So in other words, the ordinance is not clear, you're saying? And I'm interpreting not clear in the liberal form because
right now, like downtown Fort Myers, it used to be 2 hours, and then I would go move my car to the next spot, do the same thing. And then they changed it to 2 hours in any of the zone. So then they started ticketing us when I moved over. So the way the ordinance is drafted currently, it says 3 hours within that time frame. You can come back the next day, but it says 3 hours. So if the sheriff's officer sees your same vehicle, you're subject to whether they interpret it as 3 hours in one spot or 3 hours in the time frame.
So it's nebulous. Well,
I don't think that's the name.
Yeah, at some point, I would like to have that cleared up, being on the agenda. I'm not sure it should be next time.
I think it needs to be clarified and
Okay, so that's a potential discussion topic. We're going to do what we did last time, which is people list them, and then we'll decide which ones are on the agenda for the next meeting.
I would like to suggest that we hear from the merchants at some later date on whether they believe their customers are having trouble parking in the non-residential or business district. I'd like to hear if that's a problem.
Okay.
Was there an indication of when the Methodist Church question is coming back?
It was, we just said a future meeting, so we'll have to decide whether it's on the next one. I believe we said future.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we had said we wanted to do it when there would be at least a supermajority of the committee would be here, so that if
And we don't
everyone
have that in
supported it,
June.
it could pass. Yeah.
To an extent, it's up to them to send in their proposal again.
Or any member of this committee
Yeah.
can put forth a motion. Okay?
That's true, too.
Okay. Yeah, please.
They are a bit contentious, so. So you had just mentioned that in the Charlotte-Lee joint meeting, they had like kind of briefly mentioned like a permit for the Charlotte County residents, if they're GIBA pass holders, that was mentioned.
If they're
Bridge pass holders, yes. If that could be up for discussion to like have a permit as an option, like in the off-season, especially for our Charlotte County greater community, so they would have access to the island and some type of capacity, whether that's like a lottery system or just a seasonal thing, if that would be an option to add a permit, like an additional like e-pass. Maybe it has a time limit on it, if that makes any sense. And then in the previous meeting, I had a question about like the right-of-way issues, and I was told it's not within our purview to discuss that on the panel, and I was just kind of seeking more education on that.
The operation and control over the right-of-way is the county's purview. This committee is really focused on parking. So theoretically, how would you put parking and removal of structures and trees in a right-of-way? What would you be looking at trying to do? What would be the ultimate goal?
I think it's relevant to the Methodist Church and their issue they're having. There's some spots there that could be within the walking distance that are not available to them. For our business district, we're asked to kind of maybe park further away, so like our employees, so they, open up spots for customers in the downtown area. And my sweet neighbor, it has these planters dug into the ground, so my employees can no longer park there to walk through the alley to easily access work. So it is relevant in my experience that and we have construction going on, I can't park. I have to park really far away to walk to work currently because I can't park in that like right of way on 5th Street that there's planters currently in. And I know it's relevant to like different spaces on the island. And it's not like I really want to see the beautiful landscaping getting ripped out, but also it's kind of like what's fair is fair as well. And I just don't understand why, if it's such public information that there's a right-of-way issue going on, why it's not being addressed.
I guess there is a question of, can we discuss it and make a recommendation that would not be an ordinance change because, but we would just let them know as a committee, there's an opinion.
Yeah,
We can't do ordinance changes anyway.
Yeah.
They have to go to the commission.
Right.
But, you're an attorney. I don't know, I've been told that when Mr. Sharp donated that property, it was supposed to have 2 lanes of traffic going in each direction and parallel parking along the side. And I know that the county, didn't they order some people to remove some of the
property? Do you know what he's talking about?
I don't know what he's talking about, but ultimately, I think the question involved, our discussion last time which this committee does not get involved with enforcement of right-of-way, but to the extent that there's a discussion that the committee wants to have as far as parking and how it impacts parking, that's fine, but it's not an ordinance change. So it won't be, it'll just be like,
Well, if you remove parking, it affects everybody.
well, we could go back and forth, but ultimately, some of these things that have been in the right-of-way for a very long time, this ordinance didn't change that.
Okay. Let me suggest that there's a request to put on a future agenda, a discussion of parking in the right-of-ways, or plantings in the right-of-ways in areas where it affects needed parking. And we are not necessarily able to do it, so you can vote as to whether or not you want it on the agenda in just a moment.
I wouldn't limit it to plantings. There are other issues of cars that are parked there for months on end that aren't moved.
I'm sorry, can you say?
It's not just about the areas of planting. There are other issues that go on, such as vehicles that are parked there for a month and not moved, for trailers being parked there, for pods that are parked are set on those parkways, so that you can't, because it does take away the parking that we're supposed to be able to use.
Right.
So it's not just the plantings, it's all the things that might block the parking availability for the rest of the island.
So you want it on the agenda, basically?
He said that it was limited to, he said it revolved around the.
Yeah, I was hearing the discussion being around plantings in the right-of-way, and your point out is it's general use of the right-of-way, obstructions to parking in the right-of-way. Okay.
That's essentially, though, an enforcement issue it's not a parking issue.
Correct, but if you want to talk.
enforcement issue,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
To the extent you want to make a recommendation with regards to parking and how that impacts parking, it's within the description of this committee's authority to discuss. If you want to just limit it to the enforcement, I'd just tell you that's really outside of this committee and probably isn't a good use of your time, but it falls generally in the parking category, so it's available for your discussion.
Well, we're obviously not going to do all these things the next meeting.
we're at 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So for the next meeting, first of all, let's discuss when the next meeting will be, if you don't mind, because I think that will affect things. We do not have 12 members available in June. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we are required to meet at a minimum under the current administrative code at least once every 4 months. Is that the way it is phrased?
That is correct.
And so if we...
Once a quarter.
It's once a quarter is the way it's said?
Let me just provide.
That's check.
No, that's 3 times a year if it's every 4 months.
Let me once a quarter.
Someone told me you couldn't go more than 4 months.
What's the question?
Is it? I want to know exactly how often we're required to meet.
Once each 4 months. Once each 4 months.
Yeah, once every 4 months, okay? So that's the way it's written. So if we don't meet in June, then we have to meet in September, okay? We can fulfill the requirements.
July and August.
Or July and August. We have to meet sometime over the summer, okay? We are having difficulty getting a supermajority here. Many of us are willing to fly down for meetings, so it's not necessarily, that's not always the issues. Yes.
Did you get any updates or information on Zoom opportunities?
I thought we addressed this last time, but I'll say it again. Our office position is that unless you have an extraordinary circumstance, whether it's health or medical issues with a family member, in order to participate in the meeting, you must be present. Which means, while we can set up Zoom, although I don't think we can do it in this facility, we can set up online for people to gain access and view it. Your participation, you need to be present.
Even though the sunshine laws say that you can do it by Zoom, it just probably leaves out the medical situation.
There's a lot that goes in.
It's there, black and white.
the sunshine law is one thing. Sunshine law really pertains to more than two or more people in the same committee having a discussion. We're talking about whether or not you can participate online, not being present in the state or in the county where the open meeting is supposed to occur. So we have taken the position, even with our Board of County Commissioners, that unless there's an extraordinary situation, and we acknowledge it on the record, you must be present. And you saw that, I guess most of you would have seen that during one of the board meetings on this matter. And that's the only time it's been allowed. Commissioner Janes one time, and then maybe twice, and then this last time. So
Is
that's
that
our
just a position or a policy, or is that an ordinance? Is that law?
Yes.
And my thought would be.
So we can change the policy.
Well, you could, a couple things. There's some AGO opinion that discusses taking things and being on a conservative approach when we were dealing with the COVID issue. And you can have that if you want it. The issue becomes, if a decision happens and there's not someone present, who's going to challenge it? How are they going to challenge it? So we're going to take the conservative approach, especially with this committee, as we've seen today. So we want all 12 people who are going to vote on a matter to be present.
Okay.
That's the second part of it. To answer your question, there is nothing in a county, both the administrative code or any of the other administrative codes, that allows for you to attend through Zoom or electronic means. Now, if we wanted to set it up so members of the public could be able to watch it from their home or wherever else, that's a logistics thing, an administration thing. That's not really a legal thing. You can do that. So if you're not able to be here and you want to still watch it, you can. But that's where we're at on the issue. And I would.
How many people do we have for the next meeting?
We have 9 or 10, and I'm not exactly sure whether the 10th would be able to come, be motivated to come if we couldn't take action at the meeting. But I haven't gone back and circled back to let people know, you know. But we are all expected to attend meetings.
May I propose September 15th?
And all I can say is, for the sake of the merchants, that's a long time to make them wait for any kind of decision. So that's where that was my concern by tabling it, is that we're going to lose the whole off-season. So that's the only reason why I would object to it. Otherwise, I would say September for sure, but that's kind of.
But we have a quorum.
We can't act on anything the next meeting.
Right. So maybe.
Well, unless some people change plans and find a way to be here.
They want to be on this committee.
Yeah, I think when we agreed to do this, I think we agreed to show up. I know for myself, I counted on June 17th. I arranged my schedule.
Right.
Already
And
bought plane tickets.
You know, and so I don't think that's fair to keep changing this around.
Right. All right. So.
If they can't attend the meetings, they should resign. If they can't, for 3 months, they can't make a meeting.
I don't think we're saying that.
Let us take a vote to maintain our current schedule of June 17th. I'd like to make that motion.
We could set the rest of the dates.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Can I make a request?
Yes.
The second week of the month is going to be better for me than the third.
Bruce, yeah, I polled everyone and tried that. It didn't work. There's some people that absolutely, there's some people who absolutely cannot attend if we do it in the second week. So
are we trying to decide the date of the meeting that currently we don't think we have enough people for?
yeah, and just can we hold the June 17th? Is everybody okay holding that meeting date, given that we have to meet sometime? Yes.
If I may, real quick, Nathan Toman with Lee County. What I've worked on with Tim Bonasoli here is that if you guys do we have a quorum for the June 17th meeting. not to say that there wouldn't be a supermajority if everyone could make it. If we have the June 17th meeting, from all the responses that were compiled, I've asked him to set aside October 14th, February 10th, June 9th, and October 13th. According to all of your responses, that would be the second Wednesday of every fourth month once the June 17th meeting has occurred.
This,
Could you repeat those?
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll send these out to everybody, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So Bruce, going forward, I'm sorry, going forward, the second Wednesday, not the second Tuesday. Second Wednesday works for everybody.
So to start,
Please read them again.
yep, to start would be our June 17th meeting. That's 2026. Then we would have October 14th, 2026. Then we would go into February 10th, 2027. Then we would go into June 9th, 2027. And then October 13th, 2027. Now, the only thing that we need from the committee, you gave us the dates, you just didn't give us the times that were better for you. I don't know if 10 a.m. was being kicked around or if 1 p.m. was being kicked around, but in order for us to reserve the facility, we would need to know what time you guys would want to start the meeting.
1 o'clock, when I polled people, I asked for morning or afternoon and suggested that the afternoon would be 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So that's what all those yeses mean.
Okay, perfect. And so,
But before you go further, I do have a question about timing of the meetings. In other words, people aren't on the island by and large in June. I've received a number of requests to hold our meetings when people are on the island.
Okay.
Because there's some cynicism about what happens when everybody's away. So just out of, that would require a change to the administrative code. That would change the code to say, rather than meeting once every 4 months, we would say meet 4 times per year, or 3 times per year. We could talk about it as at a minimum. But I personally would like to see if we can. We might need to change the code, but have our meetings sometime between October and the end of April, May at the worst.
I just need to know what the dates are that you guys
I
would
know.
like.
But the problem is we need a code change to go that far, so.
As it sounds right now, you have at least, assuming the June, it sounds like June 17th is really, July, August, September, October would be, yeah, so it sounds like as long as you hold the June 17th meeting and those
This year,
dates,
yeah.
at least those dates work, you will be able to meet your obligations on the administrative code for this year.
Right.
In the interim, if the committee wants to change it to, say, 4 times a year minimum, then we can process that between now and whenever. There might be other changes we want to
Yeah,
suggest.
so just if we do that, the June date that you have for 2027 might well move forward to April.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and that gets us,
Less, yeah, right? I mean,
Right.
we can
right,
always-
yeah, we can always have more, but the point is to, we can maybe put this on the agenda as a discussion item for a future meeting as to whether we want to request a change in the administrative code that would allow us to meet 4 times a year, or at a minimum 4 times a year, but not have any other requirement on timing. And the goal would be to give us the ability to have our meetings when people are generally on the island.
And did I understand correctly, it was, you guys wanted the second Wednesday?
Second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday?
Yeah.
Of every, or month, whatever the timing works out to be, it's always going to be
Yeah.
the second Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nathan, it looked like from the presence today of the members of the public that even at this max,
We can shrink it down.
there was enough space in the room over there to
Yeah.
handle this. I don't know about this part, but
Sure.
as far as the members of the public, there was enough space.
Okay.
We might be able to start meeting there.
Are we talking about the crowning shield? And that
Well,
depends on availability as well.
Right.
No, but there's also a boardroom that we should look at before you leave?
Yeah, I took a look at that.
That would be an ideal table for us, and I think you could probably sit at least 30 people. We should look.
Yeah.
Of members of the general public
Just as
observing.
options.
Absolutely.
Be a much better.
And really, we're at the mercy of whatever, is scheduled at each one of these locations on campus. And so my request to Parks was to get us an availability at whatever facility was available on these times. And so we can do that. So.
Okay. So the meeting dates are June 17th, October 14th, February 10th, and currently June 9th. That's subject to the, was it 13th or 14th?
Yes, sir. I'll make sure you guys all
I heard
get it.
14th. Oh, for the next year, yes, October 14th of 2027. That would be 3 times a year, actually.
While we're all right here, and I recognize everybody has scheduling issues, and I have no idea who's able to come and who isn't, but I would just, make a plea that we try to get a critical mass to be able to vote on this issue regarding the parking off-season. I would just
agree.
Make a plea.
So those of you who said no, please reevaluate whether you can find a way to be here. It is important that we're able to take action if that is in fact the desire that a supermajority of the committee would want to do if they could only be present. All right. So with those dates in mind, let's just go back to items for the next meeting. Maybe we should assume that there will be a supermajority. I don't know, but nobody has. Yeah. Okay. Let's assume there'll be a supermajority. There'll be at least 12 of us. So with that in mind, we could discuss potentially the Methodist Church. Education.
Education at the top.
Yeah.
And while you still have an audience, I think that's important.
Isn't this where Mark was going to come back to us with ideas?
So Mark, you would have to be ready. So education and signage, the Methodist Church request, other things that were suggested, the golf cart rental companies being able to distribute passes to overnight guests.
We already had a motion on this reconsideration of the seasonal.
Yeah, reconsideration of the seasonal parking downtown.
And I have to leave, but are we going to vote on this?
Yes.
I vote yes on this agenda for next.
Okay, so okay.
Thanks.
Do you want an item on the agenda to hear from merchants about whether customers are having trouble finding parking spots?
I would propose we postpone that till a meeting date in the future.
Okay. Since you suggested it, let's take that as a given. Permit for Charlotte County people in the off-island. I'm sorry, permit for Charlotte County people who have annual bridge passes, some kind of off-island permit.
I don't know how to put it
exactly,
but just opening that up for discussion, basically for, how do I word this concisely?
So is that something that people want on the agenda for the next meeting?
So is that the last thing?
No, I'll read the rest.
Find out legally if we can even do that.
We'd be creating a new permit category. I would tell you one consideration we should have is some of the global items that come up have been vetted pretty thoroughly at the county level already, okay? And we do have to think about trading off the value of allowing community input and getting everyone the chance to be heard and sharing our views with the likelihood of getting something through the county commission, and the likelihood of getting 12 votes here. So I would just say, there's value to any of these conversations. It's just a question of which ones you want to have, and that's what I'm trying to get consensus on.
Well, I think that's a good thing to discuss.
Okay. So if we did that, we would have the Methodist Church, we'd have education and signage, we'd have the Methodist Church, we'd have seasonal again. We'd have the golf cart rental people being able to give permits. And we would have a discussion of a new category of permit for people who do not live on the island that would be, we can discuss whether it's seasonal, whether it's limited in number and done by lottery, whether there's a price to it, et cetera. So
Clarifying the parking downtown, the hour limit can move from one spot to the next.
okay, yes.
Well, I can tell you the answer now. The answer is the ordinance provides 3 hours, that's it, total for the day.
Which is not very welcoming, I have to tell you.
So,
So there might be a proposal to clarify that in the ordinance.
Going out of our way to make things good.
Or
for
perhaps
residents,
doing
that
it
is
with
not
education,
criminal.
but,
It's not 3 hours in that spot, which seems like it's good.
I actually told
My
them
thought is,
they could-
I'd love to hear the merchants complaining that their customers can't park, I mean, that would be a real impetus
I
to
have
get
been
at.
getting calls on that, so,
Okay, I didn't know.
yeah. So we should, are you saying you'd like it on the agenda?
Seems like there's a lot of things on the agenda
Yeah,
for June.
there are, that's the
I think it should go
point.
into education, like
We
clarify
may
it
have to
during the
make this a
education.
two-day meeting.
Yeah, I think we can't be too ambitious here, guys. We got to make a decision. We're losing
recommend-
people here. We've got to make a decision while we still have a
Education and
quorum.
clarification should be one big topic at the top of the list. That's like
Yes.
biggest thing for
Okay.
everybody here.
So in
as well as for the
addition,
public.
we all agree on education.
Does that include signage?
Yes. Do we all agree that we should talk about the seasonal again in the next meeting?
Yeah, we have to clarify exactly.
Okay? So we've got education and seasonal. I will say the Methodist Church has told me that the real issue begins in January, okay? And they've also said that in this meeting. So I would propose if we have a full agenda, that that's something that we could do at a future meeting.
Well, and that only leaves October, right? So October would be our next.
Exactly.
What about, did we talk about the right-of-way stuff? I mean, that's not a voting thing, right? That was not something that.
So there's the right-of-way and the state park issue. Again, the question is, if we have a full agenda and we're already putting off things that we have jurisdiction on, do we really want to take time on things that we don't? Answer no. Okay. And anybody disagree?
What was the no for?
That because our agenda is full, that in the next meeting, we won't discuss items that we don't have any jurisdiction over, which would be my ideas for the state park. In other words, we won't discuss it. Doesn't prevent any of you or me from just on our own promoting those ideas, but we won't discuss it as a committee, and I wouldn't be speaking for the committee if I did that. That's one, and the second is enforcement of the right-of-way question is the other one where we don't have jurisdiction, and so the suggestion is that we don't talk about it in the next meeting because our agenda is already limited.
Which is what, the last one is what, 3-hour limit?
We don't have a time limit on our meetings.
Oh, no.
Oh, the 3-hour parking limit, yes. Although, we might want to vote for a time
I would love
limit.
to propose a time
A
limit.
2-hour, yes.
Yes.
So look, in that spirit, we're falling apart here. In that spirit, we've got the 3-hour limit, the education and signage, the 3-hour limit, hearing from merchants about whether their customers have had trouble finding parking spaces.
I would postpone that.
You would postpone that, okay? Do we need to do anything else other than education and signage and?
Well, the golf cart rental.
The golf cart rental, I'm sorry, yes. So that would be the third one. And the Methodist Church would wait till October.
And the seasonal thing.
The seasonal we have there. So it was education and signage, seasonal Methodist Church, and golf cart. I'm sorry.
So Methodist Church is on there.
I'm sorry. No, I'm really tired. Yes, I'll try and get it right this time. Education and signage.
Part of the seasonal.
The seasonal.
Can be whether or not the merchants are having trouble with parking.
But he'd like a real formal, more,
Report.
yeah. So not for the next meeting on
And
that.
not in the middle of
We'll do the seasonal, we'll do the education and signage, and we'll do whether golf cart companies should be able to issue passes.
Like the one we have here where you're in the picture, you can go around.
And then we're going to do the 3-hour.
Do one of those for us, give us a report.
So is that on the agenda, the 3-hour limit?
3-hour limit.
Okay, so it's 4.
Whether,
Really just need to ask the sheriff what they, how.
oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm answering the wrong question. Seasonality, relaxing the 3-hour limit is on the agenda. Clarifying the ordinance.
We really just need the sheriff to clarify how they're reading. I tell you how I read it, but.
Okay,
So we need to ask them how they're enforcing it.
Why don't we just ask them and
Yeah.
go from there?
Well, it's actually pretty clear.
Says zone.
It's pretty clear.
Says zone, not space.
Could we recommend that it be space, maybe? I don't know.
I don't think that's what people want. But people are
Should just
bringing
be
it up.
highlighting it.
Yeah, okay, okay.
It's capitalized.
So then we are down to those. Do you have them, Eileen? You're better than I am at this. I should just have you read these things out, yes.
Education and signage, seasonal parking downtown, which is basically reiterating what the action item was today, and then golf cart rental permits.
And then was there a discussion for the additional permit option for off-island use? You had mentioned it before.
I thought the conclusion was that you didn't want to do that on the next meeting. Do people want to add
Right
it?
away, then.
Okay. Do people want to discuss the permit in the next meeting for Charlotte County members?
I'd like to
Sure.
find out the legality of us even being able to do that, if Lee County could do that. Or no?
Well, I don't
We take it
think,
up.
chances are it wouldn't be limited to Charlotte County. It would be people, anybody can buy a permit.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, if the committee wanted to create an ordinance, a recommendation to change the ordinance to allow for a new category for permit issuance to individuals that own or have, however you get these things, the bridge pass.
You put down $20 and you get it.
Right.
yeah.
Then
No,
you
the
can,
annual bridge pass, so maybe this is the clarification, right? Because there's our discounted passes, right? But then there are also passes that you buy, like at our office, I literally have one of our employees because they come over regularly more than 5 days a week, right? So it's not just the normal passes that many of us have, it's a different, is that what you're talking about, or? Okay.
People who frequent the island. Families who've lived out here, who no longer live out here, but they come out here frequently. And this is like their home.
Yeah, the issue is how to identify them, but this would
But
be
that's
part of
kind of
our
like a
discussion.
good
We
way,
don't have to have the
yeah.
discussion today. Question is, do we want to have the discussion at the June meeting? Will there be time to deal with it is the question, but thoughts?
Is that one of the matters that has been coming up in the discussions between Charlotte and Lee County?
No, not to my knowledge.
That's a fundamental change to this ordinance.
Right.
I would.
Well, wait, you should answer the question because I'm not aware of all
it was
discussions.
thrown out, I have it in my notes. that
Okay.
One of the Charlotte County commissioners suggested, since individuals had already paid for these, that they would be granted the ability to park apparently anywhere. There wasn't a lot of details provided by anybody from Charlotte County. It was more left to generic talk, but they did identify that as, can you provide a permit to these people?
Should we be entering into a discussion on our own if that is a matter that's already being discussed between Charlotte and Lee County?
anything that we come up with regards to this conflict resolution, we'd be bringing it to you to discuss anyway. So if you're already ahead of the game, then fine.
Yeah, but might we confuse the discussion between counties by having a discussion here, I think is where you're headed, Kimberly.
Well, then they talked about seasonality too, and then some of these other things,
Yeah.
so.
Just kind of trying to get ahead of the game there and listen to everybody's feedback, because isn't that the purpose of this committee?
I think we'll get a lot of comments. I mean, we'll have hundreds of people here commenting.
Not if we do it in June.
I don't know about that.
I mean, it's basically saying anybody in the world that wants to become a de facto resident has the ability to, at a minimal to no cost, and that basically guts this ordinance.
That's why I made the comment earlier about we should decide whether we want to discuss things that don't have a high probability of passing, either this committee or the county board. But sometimes it's helpful to have that conversation so that everybody is aware what people feel. So I'm not trying to push it one way or the other.
I would say that, in my opinion, that would be such a fundamental change, and if that change ever came to be, it would completely gut the intent and the...
Okay. So let's just keep the discussion to, do you want it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Well,
Can
I think
we?
there's more pressing issues.
Yeah, okay, can we just take a vote on that? Yeah.
This will
Okay,
never pass.
all who want it on the agenda the next meeting, please say aye.
I guess I do, since
Okay.
I suggested it.
There are two, just for the record, that's Nikki Hyman and Bart DiStefano. I always say DiStefano. So, opposed to having it on the next agenda, that's all. Okay. That's, Cheryl, you have to vote one way or the other, apparently.
And so, okay, so we're trying to figure out if we want to talk about the Charlotte County, or any residents.
No, any non-resident, any
To
non-resident
make the island more welcoming.
can buy a pass.
So when you move to
Essentially.
Welland Park, can you just go and, because you also had one of those bridge passes?
That was a 250,000.
Or if you're developing Welland Park, could you offer as a part of each home an annual bridge pass plus whatever this permit is?
I'm well aware of the overdevelopment
Yeah.
going on off
Yeah.
island.
Yeah.
It's so upsetting.
So-
But yeah, I just think that we should consider our larger community
Okay.
and that there hasn't been discussion.
Right.
I
So-
don't know how I could amend that
Right.
to open up discussion for welcoming people back in some type of capacity.
So remember, we're not nixing it, we're talking about whether it's on the agenda for the next meeting.
I also want to say,
Relevant to the offshoot.
we may differ on things, but I totally respect and honor you're doing that, really. I mean,
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that does everyone understand the question? I'll do it one more
I'm
time.
always up for giving everybody a seat at the table,
Okay.
right? So I would say, I would vote with the other.
So 9
Okay.
to 3 instead of 10 to 2.
Okay, so can I just, to be sure, those of us who would like to have it on the next agenda, please raise your hand. Okay. That's Cheryl, Nikki, and Bart. Opposed? That is everybody else. Okay? Done. I think we have an agenda for the next meeting. Once again, we wear ourselves out by the time we're done here. We've done future dates. I would like to hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We don't need that.
Louis, you didn't even do it this time.
Meeting adjourned.
I didn't want to...
How do I turn this mic off?